After 40 years of hard work, I thought I was dead. I opened my eyes, only to find myself reborn on my wedding night. Once again, Wang Mian's young and handsome face appeared before me. What a pity. I've seen enough in this lifetime. A red candle flickers with flame. Wang Mian pushed the door open and walked in. I carefully studied the young Wang Mian, for it had been so long that I had nearly forgotten the youthful brilliance of the Tanhua Lang. I have to admit, that face could indeed charm any woman. Back then, I too felt my heart flutter, pitying his poverty, understanding his struggles, and always putting his needs first. But now, I no longer have that girlish heart. Besides, the old lady would soon send someone to call him away. It was the same in my past life. My mother-in-law, though born in the countryside, managed to raise a top scholar on her own. She can be described as both aloof and incredibly proud. She was delighted to form a marriage alliance with my family, yet feared she couldn't keep me under control. So this first move of our new marriage was her way of putting me in my place. Sure enough, just as Wang Mian was about to drink the nuptial wine with me, Ying Tao, my mother-in-law's personal maid, came knocking on the door, saying that the mistress wanted the young master to come see her. Wang Mian glanced at me, looking a bit embarrassed. In my past life, I was so considerate, telling him, go on, I'm fine. In this life, I don't even want to live anymore. Why would I care if he's in a tough spot? So I simply held the wine glass, let out a soft chuckle, and rose to my feet, saying, please, make yourself at home, my lord. Wang Mian froze for a moment, then put down his glass and said to me, I'll be right back. He will never come back once he leaves. Not consummating the marriage on the wedding night was the first leverage my mother-in-law held over me. From the moment I married into the Wang family, I was at a disadvantage, and I could never make up for it afterward. After Wang Mian left, my personal maid Adu urged me not to be afraid. What am I afraid of? Someone who has died fears nothing. I took off my wedding gown, changed into everyday clothes, and said to her, come on, I'll go see my mother-in-law too, since she's feeling unwell. As her daughter-in-law, I naturally need to be there, no matter that it's our wedding night. Leaning on Ado's arm, I had 2 young maids hold lanterns, with 4 elderly matrons following behind to watch the path, and we hurried all the way to my mother-in-law's courtyard. This house of the Wang family was rented by my father, and the money was given to Wang Mian, said to be my dowry. A man of pride and self-respect like Wang Mian naturally refused to accept it. After much persuasion, he only agreed to stay after writing an IOU. The courtyard was a small 2-section one, and we arrived in no time. The light was on in my mother-in-law's room, and their silhouettes, hers and her son's, were cast on the window. I cleared my throat, glanced up at the star-filled sky tonight, and figured tomorrow would be a fine day. Then I called out loudly, mother-in-law, your daughter-in-law has come to see you. The voices inside quickly fell silent. Then Wang Mian stepped out and asked with a frown, why are you here? I flicked my handkerchief and said, since my mother-in-law is ill, it's only natural for me, as her daughter-in-law, to come and attend to her. Wang Mian said, no need, you go back first. Go back? How can I go back and perform opera anymore? Of course I wouldn't allow it. Dabbing the corners of my brow with a handkerchief, I said, I know you care for me, dear husband, but with your mother ill, if I, as her daughter-in-law, stayed aloof and did nothing, wouldn't that invite gossip? Besides, on the very first night of our marriage, the moment I stepped through the door, my mother-in-law fell ill. Any malicious person would say I brought bad luck to her. I must personally attend to and care for her. Only when she recovers will I feel at ease. Wang Mian was clearly taken aback by what I said. To him, this was just a trivial matter, but he didn't know that it was these very trivial matters that would be my undoing. In my past life, I toiled for 40 years, worn down by one petty grievance after another, with no way to defend myself or explain, and in the end, I died young. If I had to live this stifling life all over again, staring at the script laid out in black and white, written with ruthless cruelty, how could I ever be willing to? Wang Mian never did let me serve in my mother-in-law's room, and he himself quickly returned to his own chamber. But after my little outburst, he wasn't in the mood to be affectionate with me, almost as if he was deliberately giving me the cold shoulder. See, like mother, like son, both trying to manipulate me. Thinking that as a daughter of the Ministry of Rights Vice Minister, I'm thin-skinned and bound by the 3 obediences and 4 virtues, so I'd surely lower myself and play the submissive role to him. He was well-read and clever, so pitting his wits against a mere girl like me was like using a sledgehammer to crack a nut. That's why, in my past life, I ended up giving him exactly what he wanted, only the shell remains the same. Inside, the core has been replaced with a demon. I've long been dealing with him with a mindset of mutual destruction. Does he really dare to divorce me? It suddenly dawned on me that with my status, marrying into his family was already a step down. Wang Mian should treat me with respect and serve me well. When I act arrogant and domineering, he can't do a thing to me, but when I am meek and submissive, he just steps all over me. How infuriating. I slept well through the night, and when I got up, Wang Mian was already gone. Last night, I hit the pillow and fell asleep instantly, but Wang Mian tossed and turned, struggling for most of the night. Where is everybody? I asked. Ado said that the master had already gone to pay his respects to the old lady, and told the young lady to go over on her own once she woke up. You didn't even wait for me. But I was really furious. After I finished freshening up, Ado picked up the prepared gift and asked if I had forgotten anything. I pointed at the brocade box in her hand and said, "Take it away and get another one." Inside the brocade box is a headband I embroidered myself. It's not a valuable gift, but it carries my heartfelt intentions. Though my mother-in-law doesn't care for it, she's no good at embroidery herself, yet she has the nerve to say my stitching is crude. Back then, I could only bow my head and apologize, taking all the blame upon myself without daring to say a single word against her. I've spent a lifetime kissing up and never got so much as a smile in return. From now on, anyone who wants to brown nose can go right ahead. My mother-in-law was having dinner with Wang Mian when she saw me coming. She smiled and greeted, "Here comes the daughter-in-law. Look, that's real skill." Sometimes I truly admire my mother-in-law. She doesn't seem like a country woman from a rural background at all. After yesterday, today still greets with a smile. I also smiled and said, "Hello, mother-in-law." My mother-in-law took my hand right away and said warmly, "You're young and sleep soundly. That means you're healthy, not like me, an old woman who gets up early and can't sleep even if I want to." That's a dig at me for being lazy, I said. It's my blessing as a daughter-in-law that my mother-in-law is so understanding. My mother-in-law was left speechless. I pretended not to notice and had Ado present the gift I had prepared. The headband was no more. I had exchanged it for gold instead. This gift might be a bit tacky, but my mother-in-law likes it. The Wang family is most in need of money, yet they insist on pretending to be noble. In my past life, my gifts never earned praise simply because I didn't cater to their tastes. In this life, if she asks for gold, I will give her gold, I said. I'm not skilled enough to make a gift for my mother-in-law myself, so I picked out this gold bracelet for you. Please try it on and see if it fits. The gold bangle was heavy, substantial in the hands, and the mother-in-law held it for a long time without a word. I took the opportunity to sit down in the seat. Wang Mian was quietly sizing me up. I ladled him a bowl of porridge and said, "You must have had a long night, my husband. Please, eat quickly." Wang Mian lowered his gaze. I can't tell what's on his mind, and at this point, I don't even care to try. After dinner, Wang Mian and I went back to the room. He secured a position at the Hanlin Academy and was granted 3 days of leave for his wedding. Today, he happens to have nothing to do. We returned to the room, and Wang Mian dismissed the attendants before asking me to sit down. "Are you trying to talk business with me?" I sat down, picked up my nails, and asked, "What is it, my lord?" Wang Mian traced the edge of the table, and after a long silence, he said, "Now that we're married, we're one family, husband and wife as one, sharing glory and hardship alike. As for mother, if she does anything that's not quite proper, I ask you to be understanding." Here he goes again with his sweet talk. I thought he would settle the score with me, but to my surprise, he just let it go. True, he hasn't become the prime minister yet, and that uncompromising attitude of his wasn't there from the start. Now, he was merely a lowly editor in the Hanlin Academy, new to officialdom, with no power or influence, so he had to tread carefully in life. I interrupted him. "Husband, we're visiting my family tomorrow. Have you prepared the gifts?" Wang Mian was taken aback. Of course, he didn't. The Wang family couldn't scrape together a present worth giving. In my past life, I was the one who used my dowry to subsidize everything. My mother-in-law called me over and beat around the bush for ages, not once mentioning money directly, yet every word was meant to make me consider my husband's interests. To think of your husband is to think of your own dignity. That wasn't wrong. So in my past life, I followed through. I took the money but didn't earn any goodwill. Just willingly took the beating. These days, who cares about saving face? Just throw it away. Wang Mian was stumped by my question. I let out a deliberate sigh, rose to my feet, and said, "I'm weary, my lord. I'll take my afternoon rest now. Please consider what gift to bring tomorrow." Finally had a quiet afternoon to myself. Wang Mian was nowhere to be found, and I couldn't be bothered to ask, but my mother-in-law found out and called me over. When I went over, she was digging through her belongings, smashing the bottom of the box open, only to find a few copper coins. She said, "Bai Nyang, take all of this, prepare some gifts for tomorrow. Our family can't compare to your vice minister's household, we can't afford proper gifts. This is your mother's personal savings, take it all, and don't think less of it." Even though I was mentally prepared, I was still stunned, speechless. She thought I couldn't afford to lose face, but she didn't know I'm no longer human. I took the copper coin from her hand and smiled warmly. "Many thanks, mother-in-law." I used the copper coins she gave me to buy 2 jin of tofu. The tofu was pure white, and I had someone tie a red silk ribbon around it, placing it on the table in the room. When Wang Mian came back at night and saw it, he asked me what it was. I was removing the ornamental hairpin from my hair when I heard this. With a smile, I told him it was the gift my mother-in-law had asked me to prepare for the wedding visit home. I added, "Husband, please don't blame mother-in-law, she has given all her private savings, and I understand completely, though the gifts are modest. My parents know of your difficulties and won't take offense." The rest of the sentence was swallowed back. At the sight of Wang Mian's glare, I had never seen Wang Mian's eyes so sharp and warning, but he quickly lowered his gaze and said, "Put it away, I have prepared another gift." His gaze sent a chill down people's spines. Wang Mian borrowed silver from his classmates and prepared additional gifts. He and I went back to my place the next day. My elder sister is already betrothed to the third young master of the Minister of Revenue's mansion, since he is still at his post and has not yet returned to the capital. The marriage has been delayed. My third younger brother studies at the academy and rarely comes home on ordinary days. Today, as it's my return visit to my family home, he has taken leave to be here. Though my mother favored others, I was still her own flesh and blood. Upon seeing me back, she quickly asked if everything was all right, but I remained indifferent. I once told her how hard life was in my husband's family and how difficult my mother-in-law was to please. Before I could finish, my mother cut me off, saying that no daughter-in-law has it easy and that I should just be more patient and tolerant. I listened, and obediently became the Wang family's wife. Later, when my eldest sister got married, her husband pushed her for the sake of a prostitute. My mother, disregarding her own status, stormed the minister's residence and insisted on taking my sister away for a divorce. At that moment, I realized that the minister's residence and even our mother were my elder sister's pillars of support, not mine. This time, I won't rely on anyone to be my backbone. Mother asked me how it was, and I said, "My mother-in-law is sharp-tongued, my husband is scheming, the Wang family is a den of vipers." "Oh my God, elder sister," I burst out laughing and said, "Just kidding, mother, why so scared?" My mother let out a dry laugh and lowered her head to touch the teapot. My elder sister said to me, "Second sister, how could you frighten mother like that?" I said meekly, "Don't be mad, sis, I was just joking." My mother came to her senses and said, "Now that you're married, don't be so frivolous. Wang Mian is a steady young man. Once you marry him, you'll be the mistress of the household. In the future, you'll need to help him manage the inner quarters. You can't carry on like this anymore." She paused, then added, "Mother knows this marriage is a compromise for you, but your father and I have our reasons. Wang Mian may come from a poor family, but he is exceptionally talented and will surely achieve great things in the future." That's true enough. Wang Mian steadily climbed the ranks, thriving in the officialdom like a fish in water, and indeed soon rose to prominence. My dad really nailed it when he spotted his potential. Before he made it big, my father needed me to nurture that sapling, but as his official rank grew higher and higher, he became the powerful figure our Qin family had to cling to for dear life. Their interests are intertwined, forming one entity, yet they expect me to serve as the mere ornament between them. After lunch, it was time to leave. Mother called me aside again and slipped a few banknotes into my hand. "No daughter-in-law escapes hardship. You've been obedient since childhood. Just serve your mother-in-law well and take good care of your husband, and one day the clouds will part and the moon will shine through." I clutched the silver note, gazing at the reflection of myself in my mother's eyes. The girl, with her flower-like beauty and snow-white skin, wanted to say, "Mother, I tried, but it didn't work. If I said I can't go on living with Wang Mian, would you?" "Hush now," Mother quickly cut me off. "Don't talk nonsense. You've only just gotten married. It's normal to have a few bumps along the way. No marriage is smooth sailing from the start. It takes time to grow together." I remained silent, pursed my lips until she finished speaking, then stubbornly said, "If I want a divorce, what will you do?" "Mother, why ask again?" "Probably because I still can't let go." But my mother, as expected, didn't let me down. Instead of answering my question, she simply said, "Go back now." I gave a bitter smile. The silver note in my hand is the greatest care my mother could give me in this life and beyond. I have long understood that in my mother's eyes, there is only my elder sister, and in my father's eyes, only my younger brother and me. I'm dispensable. For on the way back, I remained silent. Wang Mian glanced at me, took my hand in his, and said, "You've worked hard today." I withdrew my hand and said coolly, "Not as hard as my husband's work." Wang Mian glanced at me, not angry, and said, "In the future, if you don't want to come back, then come back less often." He could naturally tell that my parents played favorites, otherwise I wouldn't have married him. Everyone prays for a long life of 100 years, but I've been granted 2 lifetimes for nothing. If others knew, they'd envy me no end. But people never say that one must live a long life free from worry every year if, like me, I spent my last life trapped in a tomb of the dead. What's the point of going through it all over again in this one? Wang Mian truly values and cares for me, but this regard and affection come with conditions. He expects me to be filial to his mother, treat his concubines kindly, manage the household, and remain free from quarrels, complaints, or grievances. His mother, his official rank, his reputation, all surpass mine. I am merely a dignified statue he needs to place within his inner chambers. I've had enough. The next day, when Wang Mian went to work, my mother-in-law summoned me to interrogate me. She found out that yesterday's return gift was bought with money Wang Mian had borrowed. She flew into a thunderous rage, scolding me for being an unworthy wife who had brought shame upon her husband. I just don't get it. The Wang family has always been known far and wide for being dirt poor. Since when did they ever have any dignity to speak of? But my mother-in-law wouldn't care. She believes that since I married into the family, I should eagerly devote myself to mending and patching up her household and her son, the imperial scholar, ensuring the Wang family shines bright and glorious. Otherwise, what use would I be? Those were her exact words from her past life. In this life, she never changed her nature and said it once again. The only difference was that this time, I listened with a smile. She sat cross-legged on the couch, pointing at me and said, "You're a girl from a prominent family, and you don't even understand this basic principle. Do I need to teach you? A wife must follow her husband. If your husband loses face, what face do you have left?" I waved my handkerchief casually and said nonchalantly, "It was my husband himself who said he would handle it. He thought the piece of tofu mother prepared wasn't pretty enough and insisted on getting a new one. Mother also said that a wife should follow her husband's lead, since my husband wanted to buy another one. I, as his wife, had no choice." My mother-in-law was choked by my retort and said angrily, You, I was just letting you do it yourself." Let myself what? She couldn't bring herself to say it. She stopped mid-sentence, choked by my rebuttal, took a gulp of tea, and shot me a glance. My expression remained unchanged as I played innocent. Her mother-in-law's expression turned serious as she suddenly said, "Let's drop this matter for now. In the future, if something like this happens again, remember to share your husband's burdens." "Sure, I'll take it. You've been married into this family for 3 days now. I'm an old woman in poor health, so today you'll attend to me during meals." Not this trick again. A mother-in-law can easily control her daughter-in-law, demanding leg massages when she's resting, tea when she's awake, dishes served during meals, and an arm to lean on while walking. Bit by bit, with no great effort at all, she can wear her down to the bone. This move kills without drawing blood, leaving you with no one to turn to for help. You call her mean, she calls you unfilial and disobedient. Can you out-talk her? In my past life, I mentioned this to Wang Mian, but he just called me delicate and said that since his mother is getting older, it's my duty as her daughter-in-law to take care of her. He will never see my grievances. I told my mom, and she said it's no big deal. The most important thing is to win your husband's heart and bear him a child. My mother-in-law keeps me tied to her apron strings day and night. How could I possibly have a child? I slept on this small couch in front of her bed for 3 years, yet couldn't conceive a child. She then turned around and said I had been childless for 3 years, and wanted to arrange a concubine for Wang Mian. I cried all night over it, yet the next day I had to wipe away my tears and act as if nothing had happened. Going to make arrangements for Wang Mian, I played the virtuous role my whole life, and in the end, I earned a good name. But this good reputation has been a burden on me my whole life, and I'm sick of carrying it. Since she asked me to serve her, I served her obediently and without complaint. I didn't even have a sip of water all day. Seeing how exhausted I was, Ado hurried to bring me water while mother-in-law was asleep, but I declined. Who needs water? being parched and pale-lipped is what really makes you look good. So when evening came, the servant reported that the young master had returned. I let go of the soup bowl, which happened to smash the entire table of dishes to pieces, and then I finally passed out. 5. I passed out and got sick. Since I'm already sick, I won't be getting better anytime soon. This is a trick mothers-in-law often use. In her past life, she was always falling ill, and I had to tend to her day and night. Now the tables have turned. It's my turn to be sick for a change. I've been sick for nearly half a month. I don't know what rumors are circulating out there, but I doubt they're anything good. I, the new bride, have only been married for 3 days and have already worked myself to the point of fainting. It's time for me, the mother-in-law, to bear such a bad reputation. I've been resting in bed, my complexion rosy and healthy, while Wang Mian's face has only grown paler and worse. He naturally understood the whole story, so he could tolerate me for the first day or two. But after half a month with no sign of me getting better, his patience wore thin. One day, he stood by my bedside and asked with a blank expression, "How long does Madam intend to stay ill?" I said, "My lord, when do you think I'll recover from this illness?" Wang Mian could no longer hold back. "Serving your in-laws is your duty as a daughter-in-law. My responsibilities." "That's true, that's always been Wang Mian's way of thinking," I said. "A father is kind and a son is filial. You, my husband, are well-read and should know how to interpret this." Wang Mian was taken aback, then lowered his gaze. After a long pause, he said, "So that's what you think." I gave a cold, sneering laugh and didn't bother to answer him. Wang Mian whispered, "Must you do this?" I pressed my hand to my forehead and said, "My lord, my head aches again." Wang Mian turned and walked away. Wang Mian wants to control me. It's always about heirs and favor, to force me to submit. He simply stops coming to my chambers. Great, we've only been married for a few days, and he's already making me lose face like this. The servants treat people according to their status. Seeing that I'm out of favor, they've even downgraded the meals they bring me. Ado was too angry to speak, stealing a glance at me. I laughed. "What are you looking at me for? Throw it away." "All right." Ado didn't dare to defy me and quickly carried the things out. I stood up, intending to go out, but then thought better of it, as I was still unwell, so I called Ado back. "Don't throw those away. Go fetch me a doctor and tell him my head aches." Acting up again, Ado obediently agreed. The doctor arrived quickly. I was picking out grains of rice from the plain congee with my chopsticks. The doctor said, "Madam is still a bit weak." Then, noticing the near-empty bottom of my bowl of plain congee, he added, "You need to eat something more nourishing." I replied that the doctor was right, but times were hard at home and my mother-in-law insisted on thrift. "Doctor, Lord Wang is a newly favored official at court. How could, I put on a look of being unable to speak my mind, leaving it at that. See, when it comes to scheming, I'm not without a brain, I just used to be too well-behaved, unwilling to use it, and unable to. Always believed in trading sincerity for sincerity, not realizing that if sincerity is sold cheap, it becomes worthless as dirt." I called for a doctor, and Wang Mian came as soon as he heard the news. He entered the room just as the doctor was about to leave. To his surprise, the doctor stopped and directly said to Wang Mian, "Your wife is frail, you must be very careful with her diet." I took a sip of plain congee and almost burst out laughing. This doctor is incredibly kind-hearted. Wang Mian was baffled. Only after the doctor left did he notice the plain congee in my hand, and the muscles on the side of his face visibly tensed. I smiled, and said, "Why is my lord here?" Wang Mian's eyes were like knives. "Must you do this?" I set down the bowl, wiped my mouth with a cloth, said I had a headache, and made as if to lie down. Wang Mian suddenly stepped forward and grabbed my wrist. This is truly unexpected. Wang Mian has always been a man of upright character, rarely losing his composure. In my past life, I spent 20 years with him and never once saw him this furious. Looking back, I was still young back then. The young Tanhua Lang lacked self-restraint and would explode at the slightest provocation. To be honest, I'm not scared at all. I wish he would just strangle me to death. So I tilted my head back, pressed my fingernail against my throat, and slashed it hard, shouting at the top of my lungs, "Ado, you!" As soon as Ado entered the room and saw blood on my neck, she let out a scream. Wang Mian, of course, never expected me to harm myself, and he stared at me fiercely. Caught between shock and fury, I cried out, "Ado, come save me." Ado was usually terrified of Wang Mian, but seeing me injured, she immediately became enraged. She rushed over and shoved him, shouting, "Let go of my mistress right now." Wang Mian stumbled back from the push and pointed at me, saying, "Qinshi, how dare you?" She no longer even calls her by Nyang, but instead calls her Qinsher, held in Ado's arms. I peeked out from under the cloth and winked at him. Wang Mian. 6. After the confrontation with Wang Mian, he fled in panic and never dared to come for me again, but I think the price was a bit too high. There's a long scar left on my neck. Probably Wang Mian was also afraid of me, so. The meals went back to normal, and there was no reaction from my mother-in-law either. After lying down for so long, my body had grown stiff, so I got up as usual that day. As for the illness, you can't stay sick forever, you can just be sick again next time when needed. As soon as she heard that I had recovered, my mother-in-law summoned me at once. I'm a good daughter-in-law, always at their beck and call, so I went, and then I saw the White Lotus. He was Wang Mian's concubine, who bore him his only son, making her the one standout figure in the Wang household. However, in my past life, she didn't enter the household until 3 years after my marriage. I never expected her to arrive so early this time. I smiled sweetly and stepped forward to greet my mother-in-law with a respectful bow. My mother-in-law couldn't even be bothered to look me in the eye, and asked coldly if I was feeling better. I wiped my temple and said, still a bit dizzy. My mother-in-law said, since you're not in good health, I found you a helper. This is Yang. From now on, she'll stay in the mansion and help you take care of Mianer. I neither agreed nor disagreed. My mother-in-law exchanged a glance with Bai He, who quickly stepped forward to pay her respects to me. Sister, I raised my hand to cut her off, sat down calmly in the chair, and said to her with a smile, don't call me sister. Well, call me madam, I said. You're here to take care of our husband, and so am I. From now on, we'll split the house, east and west. I'll take the east, you take the west. No need to visit each other unless necessary, and no need to greet each other when we meet. We're equals here. So let's skip the big sister, little sister act and save ourselves the false intimacy. White Lotus, I can't be bothered with what she thinks. I was already magnanimous enough in my past life, taking care of my husband's concubines, their children. I took care of the whole household, and I've had enough of it. From now on, I won't let anyone make me worry even a little bit. My mother-in-law probably never expected me to be so well-behaved and cause no trouble. In the evening, she had someone bring me a bowl of soup and sent Cherry to tell me that I did very well today. Bullshit. When Bai He entered the mansion, I suspected that Wang Mian was extremely delighted. He is a refined scholar who appreciates the charm of a literary companion, and he absolutely revels in these genteel, cultured pastimes. Back then, he personally taught Bai He each stroke of her calligraphy. Now, enjoying the company of 2 women at such an early stage, he must be so overjoyed that he'd be rolling around in his bed. But I was wrong this time. Wang Mian burst into my room at night and demanded to know what I meant by that. I was totally confused. What do you mean by that? I only said a few words to you, and you immediately found me a concubine. Do you want everyone to think I'm heartless and a lecherous fiend? Qin Feng Bai, don't go too far. Who would have thought of it that way? It suddenly clicked for me, and I felt that Wang Mian had given me a great idea. In my past life, 3 years into the marriage, I had no children, so it was only natural for Wang Mian to take a concubine. But in this life, I am a new bride, and for Wang Mian to take a concubine so soon is a slap in the face to my Qin family. But what does that have to do with me? I let Bai He into the household because I couldn't be bothered with the Wang family's messy affairs. But if it also happens to put Wang Mian in his place, that would be the best outcome. If you don't like her, husband, just send her back, and I'll find someone more to your liking, I said. Wang Mian's fury surged, but having learned his lesson from my skills, he dared not recklessly clash with me again. Suddenly, he barked, everyone, stand down. Ado refused to back down. Have them withdraw. Wang Mian snapped at me. All right. I waved my hand, signaling everyone to leave. Wang Mian lifted his shirt and sat down. Get to the point. If you don't go to the concubine you just took, it's a waste of money. Wang Mian. He closed his eyes with forbearance, then asked me, Madam, what exactly have I done to displease you, that you would treat me this way? No way, never in my whole life. Then why are you so different from before? Previously Wang Mian was probably referring to before our marriage, when we first met. I was all gentleness and courtesy toward him. I've never understood why you're like this marriage, for both of us. I don't know what you think of this marriage, I interrupted him coldly. As for me, what say do I have in it? Wang Mian stared at me in shock. I stood up abruptly. If you have nothing else, husband, please leave, I'm tired. Wang Mian stood still, and after a long pause, said, so you never wanted to marry me? The tone was no longer one of surprise, It was sheer disbelief, like a murmur in a dream. All I could offer was a sneer of contempt. In my marriage, I have never been able to make my own decisions. 7 Wang Mian did not take by he as a concubine, he only let her work as a maid sweeping and cleaning in the study. My mother-in-law was quite displeased and kept dropping hints, insinuating that I was the one stirring things up behind the scenes. I said, "You can lead a horse to water but you can't make it drink. If mother-in-law is so capable, she can persuade my husband herself. As his wife, I'm incompetent and have no say in his decisions." "How can you say you can't interfere?" said the mother-in-law. "Didn't Mianer come to your room yesterday? Surely you said something to him." I said, "Since you're asking that, mother-in-law, let me ask you first, when you arranged for a concubine for my husband, didn't you bother to discuss it with him beforehand? You just let him storm into my room for no reason, accusing me of deliberately ruining him." Of course she hadn't discussed it with Wang Mian, and I'd heard that mother and son had even exchanged a few harsh words over it. Now that I'd hit a nerve, she lashed out like a cornered dog. "It's all because you're not a virtuous wife. If you weren't constantly sulking with Mianer, making him feel like a bachelor even after marriage, why would I have to bother with all this? Instead of reflecting on yourself, you dare to talk back to me. Now that she and I have completely fallen out, there's no need for the roundabout way of speaking like in our past life." I said expressionlessly, "If mother-in-law keeps pestering me like this, your daughter-in-law is going to faint." Mother-in-law was dumbfounded. I leaned back comfortably in my chair and continued, "Mother-in-law says I'm not virtuous. I'm a filial daughter-in-law and dare not contradict you, but I come from an official family, generations of scholars who value propriety, wisdom, and integrity. I was raised to be both virtuous and graceful, even when I've met the imperial consorts in the palace. I've never made a single misstep. When I married into the Wang family, I brought 36 dowry chests. Behind closed doors, I paid off the debts the Wangs had racked up. In public, my father advanced my husband's career and gave him no small help along the official path. I don't know how my mother-in-law sees it, but in the capital, a situation like mine is called marrying beneath oneself. I've been wanting to say this for a long time. All my life, my upbringing and the embroidery and poetry I learned before marriage brought me neither honor nor praise. Instead, they became her excuse to belittle and humiliate me. "You need me, yet you look down on me. You fear me, yet you want to control me. What gives you the right?" My face was cold and hard. My mother-in-law seemed startled, staying silent for a long time before pointing at me and suddenly bursting out, "You're lying." She was like an enraged tiger, looking left and right before grabbing a pillow from the couch and hurling it at me. "You lying wretch, I'll teach you to spout nonsense. My son is the newly appointed Tanhua. Countless women dream of marrying into the Wang family. Who needs your marrying down? Who do you think you are?" I kept dodging the things she threw at me. I never expected the words, "marrying down," to ignite such fury in her. It really did hit a nerve, this habit of smashing things when angry runs in the family. Mother and son are exactly the same. Seeing me dodge, she grew even more furious, rose from the couch, and lunged at me. Luckily, Cherry caught her around the waist and said, "Madam, please calm down, calm down." I backed up to the doorway, thinking it might be better to lie low for a while. This farce naturally angered Wang Mian in his heart. If there was anyone who could outweigh his official career, it would be his mother. I heard my mother-in-law was so furious that she fell ill, lying in bed crying and wailing, saying the family had married a demon and that she would have me cast out. Ado also realized things had gotten out of hand and was so scared that he didn't dare say a word the whole day. I sat calmly in my room, embroidering a flower, waiting for Wang Mian to come and settle scores with me, but unfortunately, I miscalculated again. What I awaited was Wang Mian taking by he as his concubine. He elevated her to the status of a noble concubine and entrusted her with managing the household. It feels like the main matron is no longer effective, so they quickly train a replacement to step in. I had truly touched a nerve with him in my past life. He at least had the decency to consider my reputation and status, leaving the household's management in my hands from start to finish, but now, he is determined to completely freeze me out. But he also lived up to expectations, learning both household management and how to read, and quickly took on that responsibility. As the saying goes, a petty person who gains power becomes insufferably arrogant, and that couldn't be more true. The first time we met, he respectfully called me elder sister, but now it's just a curt Madam of the East Wing. Among the servants, she fancies herself the Lady of the West Wing, treating herself as my equal. I was utterly unmoved by it. but Adu was full of grievances and wanted to go back and tell my parents. I laughed at her for being naive. What difference would it make if my parents knew? Since my marriage, every matter concerning the Wang family has been whispered about in countless ears. We live in the same capital city. Do you truly believe my mother hasn't heard a word? After all, big sister's marriage is more important. As for me, it's just each to their own marriage, each to their own path. She wanted me to save myself, but she didn't know that I lacked both the ability and the desire to do so. On the day my eldest sister got married, I went back home. Wang Mian didn't come with me. My mother was extremely displeased with me because of this. After seeing my sister off for her wedding, she kept me behind alone. Nyangzi, what on earth is the matter with you? I asked casually. What do you mean, still playing dumb with me? What's the deal with that concubine in your household? My mother said, I've heard all about it. That concubine is now running the household, and the servants even call her madam in public. I laughed bitterly. The Wang family favors the concubine over the wife, and instead of standing up for me, my mother asks what I did wrong. What did I do wrong? It's all because you didn't try hard enough. My mother said, your husband's family was dirt poor. When you married into it, you brought a generous dowry and were well educated and sensible from childhood. If you had only been willing to serve your mother-in-law well and manage the household properly, how could your husband have failed to feel grateful and treat you kindly, instead of becoming estranged from you? Fine, so it's always my fault anyway. All the grievances of my life have gone unnoticed by others. Even my own mother believes that my past life was truly smooth and perfect, and if there was any flaw, being childless by fate, it was simply because my own womb was not strong enough. This life is just the same again, but I no longer wanted to listen to her lectures. In my past life, I believed those words, but I alone knew the bittersweet taste of it all. Others never once asked if I was okay. I rose and said calmly, there are matters to attend to at home. If you have nothing else, mother, I'll take my leave. Stop right there, my mother scolded, holding me back, and asked if I knew that Wang Mian now enjoyed the emperor's great favor and had been appointed by his majesty to lecture the crown prince. Oh, so that's why he suddenly thought of me. Wang Mian got a promotion. The tree planted by my Qin family is finally about to bloom, and that's when they remember me. The fertilizer that nourished it. 9. I left home and walked alone down the street, letting no one follow. The capital remains as bustling as ever, yet to me it feels like a lifetime away. Someone suddenly tugged at my sleeve. I turned around and saw it was my third younger brother, second sister. He called out to me. I smiled and asked him how he ended up here. He glanced at me and suddenly said, second sister, if mother has been unfair to you, please bear with her. If one day you truly can't make it in the Wang family, your younger brother, will take care of you. I raised my eyebrows in surprise. After saying that, the third younger brother nodded at me and quickly turned around and left. I watched him leave, and suddenly felt my eyes welling up. I didn't expect that someone in this family would actually see my struggles and be willing to share my burdens, but it was already too late. This small consolation could never fill the desolation of a lifetime. When I returned to the Wang residence, a doctor happened to be entering. He is pregnant. Truly something to celebrate. Look, I've ended up living this life just like my last one, equally dull and helpless. That night, Wang Mian came to my room. I said, my lord, today is a day of joy and such a fine evening. Why aren't you keeping your beloved concubine company? What brings you to me? Wang Mian said, I didn't mean to miss your elder sister's wedding today. His Majesty had matters to discuss with me, and I couldn't get away. State affairs come first, family matters are trivial. I waved dismissively. Don't worry, my husband is currently in His Majesty's good graces. My parents are too busy trying to curry favor with you to hold it against you. And what about you? Wang Mian suddenly asked. I was taken aback. Do you blame me? His eyes gleamed in the candlelight as he stared at me, as if trying to see through my soul. I averted my gaze, let out a sigh, and said, you're riding high these days, my lord, thriving in both public and private affairs, with such good fortune on your side. Why bother asking for my opinion? You are my lawful wife, the matriarch of the Wang family, Wang Mian said, so of course I value your opinions. A wife is merely a symbol, and the role of the mistress of the household doesn't have to be mine. If my husband has other intentions, I am willing to yield this position. By Nyang, Wang Mian interrupted me. What exactly do you want? What do you want? He always thinks I want something, but the truth is, I just want to die. I don't want to live with him anymore, Wang Mian said. Don't worry, no one will take your place. Once the child is born, I'll have the child raised under your name and acknowledge you as the mother. Wang Mian must think his move is incredibly clever, and he's waiting for me to be eternally grateful, but he doesn't know that I'm not surprised at all. I prayed in my past life, and it was said I would have no children of my own, so I wanted to adopt Bai He's child and raise it as my own. Wang Mian disagreed, saying that I'm not in good health and shouldn't overexert myself. He told me to just take good care of the household, and since raising a child is a tiring job, let Bai He handle it herself. It sounded like he was doing it for my own good, but I knew it was Bai He who had begged him not to separate mother and son. His beloved concubine and his son are the ones closest to him, while I am nothing more than an emotionless lawful wife, merely the Wang family's facade, what I desperately sought but could never have in my past life. I wouldn't take even for free in this one, so I shot him a look, grabbed the comb beside me, and hurled it straight at his head, telling him, "Get lost, you." Wang Mian clutched his head and suddenly stood up, glaring at me. "Get out," I shouted. "Who wants your charity? Who do you think you are, my master or my god? Toss a bone my way and expect me to crawl and kowtow to you? In your wildest dreams. I had no son in my past life, and I don't care about offspring in this one either. I'd rather have no descendants at all, so the Wang family has not a single legitimate heir. Yes, that's how much I hate." I thought my emotions had long been worn away, but Wang Mian always manages to hit exactly where it hurts. I hate him. I hate his willful ignorance, his selfishness, and his hypocrisy. I hate him. 10. I smashed Wang Mian's head, and before my mother-in-law came to confront me, Bai He showed up instead. She stood at my doorstep, one hand resting on her barely noticeable pregnant belly, and greeted me politely with a bow. She said her husband had told her about the child, and she was willing, once the baby was born, she would bring it over to me. "I don't want it, Bai He." I stood up. "You don't need to come here and test me. I don't want your child, and I have no interest in raising someone else's kid, but, my husband, you obey him so blindly. If he told you to die, would you, Bai He? Get out." Bai He left my courtyard almost in tears, at least that's what Ado said. She remarked that Bai was too good at putting on a show. When others asked if the lady had scolded her, she just cried and said nothing. Everyone guessed right. I did scold her, Ado said, but she was the one who came to provoke you first, madam, but others wouldn't care about that. I used to be weighed down by gossip, but now I'm the least afraid of it. Ado looked worried, fretting over how I would get by in the days ahead. I didn't say anything. The moment I opened my eyes again, I said I didn't want to live anymore, and that feeling has never changed. At night, I sent Ado away, changed into new clothes, and looking at my still youthful face in the mirror, I smiled softly. I don't know which deity was careless enough to grant me a second chance at life, but I'm afraid I'll have to let that kindness go to waste. I looped the white silk around the beam and stepped onto the stool. I'm actually a bit afraid of pain, but compared to this endless, hopeless life, a little pain this once is nothing. But he always thinks she can outsmart me, but if I were to die, I wonder if she'd be scared to death. And Wang Mian, if a concubine drives the lawful wife to her death, the censor's spittle would probably drown him. This deal is not a loss either. I kicked the stool away. The stool hit the floor, and my consciousness began to blur, as if even my soul was drifting away. In a daze, I heard the door kicked open, heard Ado's terrified scream, heard Wang Mian shouting my name. I was lowered down, and someone was pressing hard on the spot under my nose. "Qin Feng Bai." Wang Mian's voice drifted over as if from far away. "How dare you die? Do you think death will just make everything go away?" I've never heard him use such a frenzied tone, like some kind of curse. "I'm telling you, don't even think about it. You are not allowed to die." The sound faded into the distance, as the soul was drawn into a vast black hole, beyond which lay nothing but chaos. 11. When I opened my eyes again, moonlight shimmered like stars above, and two silhouettes were cast on the window. "Miss," someone called out to me. I turned to look and saw that it was Ado. Noticing I didn't speak, he asked with concern, "What's wrong, miss?" I opened my mouth and asked her, "Where are we?" "Of course she's at the Wang residence," Ado said. "What's wrong, miss? Today is your day of great joy." "Ah, on this joyous day of mine." I looked down and saw that I was indeed dressed in wedding robes. "And Wang Mian?" I asked again. Ado pouted and gestured toward the house. The loving mother and devoted son silhouetted on the window were indeed the two of them. So, I'm alive again. So eerie, but I'm in no mood to dwell on it. I spun around immediately. Ado, confused, asked me what was wrong. I said, "Go back. Who's going to blather on about that nonsense here?" I walked briskly, covering the distance in just a few strides to my room. After sending Ado away, I sat alone in silence, alive again. Why? I can't figure it out, but I can't be bothered to try. Since I couldn't figure it out, I decided to stop thinking about it. I told Adu to go call Wang Mian back. Adu looked troubled and said, "The young master probably won't agree to come back, right?" I sneered. "If he doesn't come back, I'll pack my things and go home immediately." Adu was frightened by my furious demeanor and hurriedly turned around and ran off. Sure enough, threats worked better than sweet talk. In less than the time it takes to drink a cup of tea, Wang Mian was back. "What's wrong?" he said, sitting down across from me, looking rather displeased. I studied him carefully, but no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't understand why heaven would play such a cruel joke, binding me to this man for 3 lifetimes as husband and wife. Wang Mian thought I was going to bring up what happened on our wedding night, but instead I just looked him over, confused. He asked again, "What's wrong with you?" I suddenly don't feel like asking him anymore. Wang Mian, having risen smoothly through the ranks to become a chancellor, is certainly no fool. If I try to probe him with such obvious schemes, I might well end up having my own secrets exposed. Instead, I have to save myself. Yes, I suddenly don't want to die anymore. I've died twice, 3rd time's the charm. This time, I'm going to live well. 12 Live well, and naturally you will leave the Wang family. But Wang Mian won't agree to divorce me. He still depends on my Qin family for support. Unless a noblewoman of higher status is willing to marry him, he will surely keep me slaving away for him. I know I'm not capable of finding him another good match, but if no noble lady is suitable, there's still Baihe. Yes, White Lotus. This concubine of Wang Mian's was, in fact, the birth mother of his beloved son. Since Wang Mian doted on his son so much, he naturally couldn't abandon the boy's mother. "I'm going to find Baihe." "Going out, Miss?" Adu asked me. I nodded and asked her to get my clothes, but Ado said the old lady is still waiting for you to pay your respects. I was taken aback, having completely forgotten about that. Should I obediently go pay my respects as before, or simply ignore it? "Where's Wang Mian?" I asked. The master couldn't wait for the young lady to wake up, so he went ahead to the old lady's place. Fine, leaving without me again. But I wasn't planning to go anyway. I walked straight out of the Wang family's door. Baihe was a former neighbor of the Wang family. I asked a few people along the way and quickly found Baihe's residence. Her parents passed away early, so she lives with her elder brother and sister-in-law, unmarried. She helps out around the house. TSK, who would have thought that concubine Bai, who never lifted a finger in the Wang household in her past life, now toils like a lowly servant at home. When I arrived, she was washing clothes by the stream, drenched in sweat, bending over and wading through the water. Such a grueling sight. Ado asked me what I was doing here, but I just shook my head and said nothing. I went to the Bai family courtyard. In the name of the Wang family, I informed Baihe's elder brother and his wife of my intention to take Baihe as a concubine. Her brother and sister-in-law were honest folks, too afraid to say no to me, yet too timid to say yes. They just stammered and asked, "Madam, who did you say is seeking her hand in marriage?" "Tanhua scholar, Wang Mian," I said. Aunt Baihe replied, "But the old lady of the Wang family said Baihe should enter the household a few years later. Why so soon?" "Now, and you, madam, have come in person." "Oh, I see, so it was all prearranged." "But I'm not disappointed. Disappointment takes energy, but I don't have a single ounce left to waste on Wang Mian. I'm not in good health, so I'd like to bring Baihe into the family earlier." Then I tossed down 100 taels of silver, saying it was a betrothal gift, and that I would send someone to pick up Baihe in 3 days. Sister Bai gladly agreed. 13 When I returned to the Wang family, my mother-in-law was waiting for me in the main hall, waiting to call me to account. I sat calmly below her seat. Seeing that I ignored her, she flew into a rage and barked, "Kneel down." I smoothed my temple and said, "Please, mother-in-law, calm your anger." Actually, the reason the daughter-in-law didn't come to pay her respects is simply because she was held up by something important. "What could you possibly have to do that you need to run out on the first day of your marriage?" my mother-in-law yelled at me. It seems I really got under her skin. The very first time we met, she tore off all her polite facade. "Fine, saves us from pretending and putting on a painful act," I said. "This matter concerns my husband. Last night, I had a dream in which an immortal appeared to me and said that my husband's official career would be blessed by a benefactor." I asked the immortal who this benefactor was, and the immortal said it was a young lady. I then asked who the young lady was, and the immortal showed me the way, telling me to go and find her. At this point, I smiled faintly and continued, "So bright and early." My daughter-in-law couldn't wait to go looking for him. My mother-in-law was taken aback by what I said, With a mix of doubt and curiosity, she asked, "You found it?" I nodded, feigning delight, and said, "The immortal didn't deceive me after all, just as he said. Miss Baihe has a purple aura between her brows and a face that exudes wealth and nobility, truly a woman of fortune." The mother-in-law was taken aback and pressed, "Who are you talking about?" "It's Baihe, the girl from the Bai family who used to be the Wang's neighbor." My mother-in-law lowered her head and thought. I had no idea what was going through her mind, but no matter how hard she racked her brains, she would never figure out why I had specifically chosen Baihe. As for the so-called purple aura and noble benefactor, I scoff. If I say she has a purple aura, then she does. If I call her my noble benefactor, then she is exactly that. My lucky charm. I want to take Baihe into the household as a concubine, and that doesn't seem like a bad thing. My mother-in-law quickly fell silent. I said the betrothal gifts had already been given, and I would welcome her into the family in 3 days. Mother-in-law asked, "Shouldn't we let Mian know?" I nodded. Of course, matters like this must naturally be shared with my husband, but would Wang Mian be happy? I'm afraid not. Sure enough, when he heard my decision that evening, he simply looked at me without a word. I asked, "Is my lord displeased?" Wang Mian lowered his eyes and asked, "Did you truly dream of an immortal, my lady?" I laughed. Naturally, Wang Mian also believed in the existence of ghosts and gods. Sure enough, after pondering for a long time, he said, "In that case, madam, please do as you wish." I nodded in agreement. Then he stood up and walked toward the bed, turning back to look at me. "It's getting late, madam, please retire to bed early." I remained seated and said, "I'm not feeling well today, so I'll have to trouble you, my husband, to move to the study." Wang Mian squinted his eyes. "He's bound to be suspicious, but why should I fear his suspicion? I'll leave sooner or later. Wang Mian can't keep me here." 14 3 days later, Baihe entered the household. I arranged a small courtyard for her and hired a tutor to teach her. I told her that my husband favors cultured girls, so she must study hard. Baihe, still a bit nervous, answered softly, "Yes, I have no doubt about her intelligence, and I know she will surely work hard. Now, all I have to do is wait for her to transform completely and cling tightly to Wang Mian." After settling Baihe in, I went to find my third younger brother. Thanks to a remark from my past life, I knew my parents didn't care about me, but my third younger brother was reliable. If I wanted to get out of trouble, wouldn't it be more effective to beg him than to beg my mother? My third younger brother was studying at the academy. When I arrived, he was heading to lunch with a group of classmates. Seeing me standing at the door with a lunch box, he was pleasantly surprised. "Second sister," he rushed over to me. "What are you doing here?" "Just came to see you," I said, "and I brought you some food." Although third younger brother was puzzled by my arrival, he was ultimately happy. I had someone place the food box under the tree and asked him to sit down and eat. My third younger brother asked me, "Why didn't second sister come back for her home visit?" "The Wang family has a lot going on, I'll make it up when I have time." At these words, third brother sighed and said, "Second sister, if you're in trouble, remember to tell me." See, I was right to choose you. The Qing family sees me as a bargaining chip, but my younger brother is still decent. I said, "Foliamo, I want a divorce." As soon as I finished speaking, my third brother spat out a mouthful of rice and pounded his chest, coughing violently. I quietly waited for him to calm down. After a long moment, Foliamo lifted his head to look at me, and I met his gaze. I didn't utter a single plea, nor did I even shed a tear. I simply looked at him in silence. "Second sister," I smoothed the creases on my sleeves. "It's fine, if you don't want to help me, that's okay too." Phoenix Inc. I stood up. "In that case, I'll be on my way. Just pretend I was never here." Just as I was about to turn around, my third younger brother grabbed me by the sleeve. I did not look back. After a long pause, Foliamo said, "Second sister, I'll help you." A slow smile crept across my face. "Yes, I know, he will definitely help me." 15 I wiped the smile off my face and was about to turn around when I saw someone standing at the entrance of the academy. That person was facing me, clearly having caught every bit of my expression just now. He leaned casually against the doorframe with his hands tucked into his sleeves, watching me with evident amusement. I frowned. Foliamo seemed to sense something. He turned to look and exclaimed with delight, "Brother Luo." Turning back to me, she said, "Second sister, this is my classmate and good friend, Luo Wenqi." The Luo family were not officials but merchants, the great merchants of this dynasty. 6 out of 10 shops in the capital belonged to the Luo family. I gave Luo Wenqi a cold greeting, nodded at Foliamo, and said, "I'll be going now." Foliamo agreed. then took a step closer and said, "Second sister, I'll figure something out, just wait for my news and don't worry," I grunted in acknowledgement with Feng Mo's assurance. Despite the minor interruption from Luo Wenqi, my good mood remained unaffected upon returning to the Wang family. I first delivered the casually bought gifts to my mother-in-law to keep her quiet, then went to check on Baihe. Seeing her diligently buried in her books, I felt deeply relieved. Only now do I feel that life is worth looking forward to. Of course Wang Mian noticed the moves I was making behind his back, but now that he's in a weak position with little influence, he has to focus on climbing the ladder to wealth and power first. As for these trivial household matters of mine, he only finds time to mention them to me in the evenings. "What is it, my lord?" I asked impatiently, fidgeting with my handkerchief. Wang Mian groped for the teacup with his head down, a habit he developed after rising to the highest rank among officials. I looked away. I had long felt something was off. Sure enough, Wang Mian had also returned. Though he disguised himself well, he couldn't shake off 20 years of ingrained habits. A closer look will reveal the truth. The candle flame burned quietly. Wang Mian looked up at me and said, "My lady, I have now begun tutoring the crown prince." I sighed. Time flies. True enough, with 2 lifetimes of experience, it's no surprise to cover a decade's journey in just 10 days. "Then congratulations to my husband on his meteoric rise," I said, noticing my indifference. Wang Mian seemed deeply humiliated. His gaze locked onto me as he asked, "What do you want?" I looked up at him. Wang Mian asked again, "Bainyang, what do you want?" He and I are both demons in human skin, and we both know it. I just thought he would never call it out. Never expected him to confront me so soon. I ask myself, haven't I treated you with utmost respect? You don't pay respects to mother. You neglect the household affairs. You refuse to let me return to the bedroom. I've let every single one of these things slide. I believe I've atoned for even the gravest of sins, and when you disapproved of Baihe, I was prepared to forego taking her as a concubine this time, but it was you who brought her back. But you're still not satisfied. What the hell do you want? See, the Chancellor's eloquence can always turn black into white. He knows full well what I have been through. Now he wants to let the past be the past and play the devoted husband to me. If I refuse, I'd be seen as ungrateful. He treats me as his appendage. Whatever he wants, goes. Who does he think he is? I looked him straight in the eye, without flinching, and said each word clearly. I want a divorce, Wang Mian. I want a divorce. Wang Mian, furious and humiliated, snapped, "You." He was furious, but I just wanted to laugh. I said, "You asked," and I answered. Does this reply not meet the Grand Chancellor's expectations? Qin Fengbai. He shouted my name with a stern and harsh voice. Just hearing that name from his mouth makes me not want to respond to a single word. 16. I have no patience left. He rose, his sleeve sweeping angrily across the table, sending the teacup shattering to the floor. I fixed my gaze on him and said, if a mutual divorce is off the table, then be it a legal severance. But does Wang Mian dare to? His cheeks puffed up briefly before he slowly unclenched his fist, returning to a calm demeanor as he said, Bainyang, let me tell you, I now lecture the crown prince. I nodded indifferently. He'd already said it. Was it really worth bragging about over and over again? Wang Mian smiled and said, looks like you didn't get it. I truly didn't understand. So I looked at him in confusion. Wang Mian said, now that I am tutoring the crown prince and have gained the emperor's favor, your Qin family and your father treat me with great respect and dare not break off this engagement with me. I see, so that's what you were getting at. I should have been prepared for it, but I still felt furious. I gritted my teeth, trying to suppress the anger, but in the end, I lost control. I grabbed the only teapot left on the table and hurled it at him with all my might. Crash, the teapot hit the floor and shattered into pieces. Wang Mian sidestepped, brushing off the tea stains on his clothes, and said, Bainyang, you need to behave yourself. My patience has its limits, and I won't always indulge you. Get lost. I smashed all the ornaments in the room. After the anger, an excessive calm sets in, sitting amidst the rubble. I thought to myself, he and I have become bitter enemies in this life, and there can never be a reconciliation between us. I refuse to toil and strain for his royal family any longer, nor will I be trapped and wither away in their manner. Heaven has granted me a new life. I will no longer be a puppet, allowing Wang Mian to shape me however he pleases into the person he wants me to be. After all, I am a living, breathing human being. He tried to control me through the Qin family, assuming they wouldn't sever ties with him for my sake. What he didn't know was that I would be the one to cut ties with the Qin family. I have already repaid the kindness of my parents and the deep affection of my sisters. Now that the cards are on the table, neither of us is pretending anymore. I quickly trained Bai He to take over, then gave my mother-in-law a box of jewelry, telling her I was unwell and needed to move out to recuperate. My mother-in-law doesn't dare to stop me now, and besides, money talks. She has no desire to stand in my way either. Feng Yamo quickly brought me news. He had rented a small courtyard for me and hired a guard to keep me safe. That day, I left a letter of divorce and moved out of the Wang family home. That night, Wang Mian came to the Qin residence, but Feng Yamo had already made arrangements, simply saying that I had not returned home. Upon learning that I had gone missing from the Wang family, she instead made a scene, demanding that Wang Mian compensate for my loss. Wang Mian was completely overwhelmed and had no choice but to flee in defeat. Feng Yamo brought me the news and said with a grin, "Second sister, your husband was in quite a mess." I just smiled faintly. Wang Mian is far too arrogant to let this go easily. My parents will find out sooner or later anyway. Seeing my silence, Feng Yamo said, "Second sister, rest assured, I've hired formidable guards. Even if our parents come, they won't be able to take you away so easily. I admit my plan isn't clever, but even with just a 10% chance of success, it's worth a gamble." 17. Only later did I learn that the courtyard Feng Yamo found for me was a property of the Luo family, and the guards were also from the Luo family. I recalled Luo Wenqi's half-smiling expression and asked him why he insisted on finding the Luo family. "Brother Luo is wealthy and always willing to lend a hand," Feng Yamo said. I'm truly speechless. I was staying in the Luo family courtyard, and Luo Wenqi lived right next door. When we ran into each other at the entrance, he gave me that familiar half-smile, clasped his hands in greeting, and said, "Good day, second Miss Qin." "He doesn't call me Mrs. Wang. I can't be bothered with him. Best you stay put, Miss Qin," he said from behind me. "The Qins have people combing the city for you. Step out now, and you'll be walking right into the lion's den." I paused, and only then did I understand why Feng Yamo hadn't come today. I turned back into the small courtyard, and Luo Wenqi came. Uninvited. Ado was about to close the door, but he held it open and said, "Aren't you going to invite me in for a bit?" I turned to look at him, then signaled to Ado to let him in. "Why are you bugging me?" I asked. Luo Wenqi was taken aback, as if he hadn't expected me to be so straightforward. I said coldly, "Don't act like you weren't clinging to me. If someone like me, who has lived 2 lifetimes, couldn't see through his little tricks, I'd have wasted my time." Luo Wenqi scratched his head awkwardly and asked me, "You want to divorce your husband?" I wasn't surprised he knew this. Since Feng Yamo had asked him for help, he would naturally have told him everything. "Aren't you newly married?" I shot him a glance and said, "Hasn't Mr. Luo ever realized that a woman with a long tongue annoys people, but a man with a long tongue is even more irritating?" Luo Wenqi was left speechless. After a long pause, he said, "Why are you so cold and unfeeling?" "Yes, why am I so cold and unfeeling? But in my past life, I was also a woman praised by all as a virtuous wife, yet being a good wife didn't earn me a good end, so I don't want to be one anymore." "What the hell do you want?" I asked him. Luo Wenqi said, "Actually, I can help you." I studied him, and Luo Wenqi smiled. "Don't doubt me, I really have no other motive, just that, well, it seems like you really need help." 18. Luo Wenqi thought I needed help, and he was happy to play the good Samaritan. I know he has other motives, but right now, I don't care. So, I asked him to find a herbal remedy for me. "Is it effective?" I asked. "It works every time," Luo Wenqi said. "Someone close to me tried it, and sure enough, she got pregnant soon after." "That's good," I said. "Then I'll trouble you, Master Luo, to deliver the medicine for me. I need Bai He to get pregnant as soon as possible." For Wang Mian, family legacy was paramount. In his past life, Bai He and their child were intelligent and hardworking. They were the apples of his eye. In this life, only his son would be his Achilles heel. Luo Wenqi promised. After delivering the medicine, he came back with the latest news, saying that Wang Mian and the Qin family had reported a missing person to the authorities. But don't worry, Feng Yamo secretly went back to the government office and withdrew the file, saying it was a mistake. I murmured an acknowledgement and said, "Got it." Luo Wenqi glanced at me and asked, "Tell me, if Wang Mian finds you, what will you do?" "What should I do?" I curled my lips. "Probably die." Luo Wenqi thought I was joking, but after looking at me twice and seeing no hint of jest in my expression, he said after a long pause, "So you never wanted to marry him?" I fanned myself without answering the question. Luo Wenqi said, you're so weird. Wang Mian is the newly appointed Tanhua, the third-place scholar in the imperial examination. Many women would love to marry a husband like him, yet you, on the contrary, do not wish to. I no longer wish to explain anything to anyone. From now on, my words need only be clear to myself. Fortunately, Luo Wenqi didn't press further. He covered my tracks and safeguarded my peace. 19 A month later, Luo Wenqi brought me news. The Wang family had a joyous occasion and my parents finally gave up looking for me. They told people you were ill and recuperating elsewhere. What a great excuse. I smiled and asked Luo Wenqi, guess when they'll announce to the public that I died of illness? Aren't you really afraid? Luo Wenqi said, afraid of what? Afraid that being a daughter of the Qin family will no longer bring glory, or that the title of young Madam Wang won't earn you an official honor in the future. No, I've already tried those. I have seen, savored, and swallowed the splendor that the world admires, only to taste nothing but bitterness. Feng Yamo advised me to wait until my parents had calmed down before telling them about me. I said, no need, second sister, enough. I have no desire to be a wife of the Wang family, nor do I wish to be a daughter of the Qin family. I said, Feng Yamo, go and bring Wang Mian to see me. Before that, I had written to Bai He, asking her to meet me outside the city. Wang Mian arrived quickly. Still in his official robes, he stopped in my small courtyard, looked around with what seemed like appreciation, then pulled a divorce letter from his sleeve and tossed it in front of me. The paper fluttered lightly to the ground without joy or anger. I bent down and picked it up. That divorce agreement did not bear his signature. I sigh. I'm so tired. I'll have someone come pack your things, he said. I smiled. He was still talking to himself, just like he always had. I looked up and said, I once told Lord Wan that if a mutual divorce couldn't be arranged, then a legal annulment would be the only way. Since Lord Wan refuses to sign the divorce papers, it seems he intends to pursue an annulment with me. The question is, does he dare to take me on in a bet? Lord Wang, did you not visit your beloved concubine before leaving this morning? She is now pregnant and will bear the eldest son you value most. Lord Wang, aren't you curious where she is now? Wang Mian's expression shifted as he quickly caught on. You, don't worry, I said, I've taken good care of her. All you need to do, Magistrate Wang, is sign this divorce agreement. By he and your son will return home safe and sound. Qin, Wang Mian's voice was icy, dripping with menace. You dare, without a trace of fear. I lifted my chin and pressed him. By his child, do you want it or not? He now has a weakness to protect. While I stand alone with nothing to lose, he has a bright future, grand ambitions, a thirst for revenge, and the heavy burden of carrying on his family legacy. He wouldn't dare to burn bridges with me. Sure enough, they held each other's gaze for a long time. Wang Mian lowered his gaze. He seemed utterly exhausted, pinched the bridge of his nose, and asked me, Bai Nyang, why are you like this? He will never understand, even if we are reborn together time and again, he will never grasp why I must leave. I said, Wang Mian, just sign it. Our fate has run its course, even in 1,000 lifetimes. This ending cannot be changed. Wang Mian was taken aback, as if he couldn't accept it. After a long pause, he said, why, don't you know how I feel about you? You profess deep affection for me. You can't stop thinking about me. You're head over heels for me. What is it you want to say? I cut him off. Lord Wang, you're not that kind of person. I smiled. Even if you once had genuine feelings for me, the suffering from our past life will never be forgotten. Wang Mian, my hatred for you cuts to the bone. 20 Wang Mian finally exhausted his strength. He held the brush for a long time without moving. I didn't urge him. He already knew my resolve. Unwilling to see his family ruined, he had no choice but to yield to me. After he signed, I tucked the divorce agreement into my sleeve. I am not delighted. I knew it. Wang Mian didn't truly agree with what I said. He had no choice, because I held Bai He in my hands. If I had no leverage at all in today's matter, he wouldn't have done as I wished. He's not one to treat a lady with tenderness. Wang Mian left, and I told him to remember to close the door. At this, he stopped in his tracks, turned to me, and asked if I had feelings for Luo Wenqi. I wasn't surprised. Wang Mian's thoughtfulness was never just talk. Yes, I replied. Wang Mian nodded, glanced at me, and then strode away. I sat at the table, spreading the divorce agreement before me. Luo Wenqi walked in from outside and said, I saw Lord Wang leave. Then, noticing the divorce agreement on my desk, he pursed his lips and asked, you really went through with the divorce? Enjoying eavesdropping? I asked. Luo Wenqi's face flushed red. The courtyard walls were low, and the treetops next door rustled slightly. I wasn't a fool, I even knew what Luo Wenqi was up to. You told Wang Mian that you have feelings for me, is that true? I put away the divorce agreement. What do you think? Do you think I'm that stupid? Luo Wenqi fell silent for a moment, then said, I knew it, you have a cruel heart. I smiled indifferently, having lived through 3 lifetimes. Only in this one have I attained freedom, all because I was ruthless at heart. I have cast aside my status as the legitimate daughter of the vice minister's mansion, and from now on, no one will protect me. Now that I've divorced the future chancellor, no man will ever dare to marry me again in this life. There is no place for me in the capital. If I weren't ruthless, how could I have the courage to cut all ties? What are your plans? Luo Wenqi asked me. I said, as for my future, I won't trouble you, Master Luo, to worry about it. I plan to go to Jiangnan. The wet nurse who raised me is there, and Ado also says she misses her mother. The closest person to me in this world is neither my parents, nor my elder sister, nor even my husband. Come to think of it, it's actually the wet nurse and the maid Ado. With them around, I never get bullied. 21 On the day I was leaving, Feng Yamo came to see me off. He said that my parents already knew about my divorce from Wang Mian and were very angry, but second sister, don't worry, I'll put in a good word for you with mom and dad. Go to Jiangnan to clear your mind. Once mom and dad have cooled down, I'll come to bring you back. I smiled. Feng Yamo is still simple. My parents' reaction was far more than just anger. Wang Mian has already begun tutoring the crown prince, such a promising husband, and I lost him. They'd love to tear me limb from limb, and by deliberately going off the grid, I also tarnished their reputation. I'm afraid they won't recognize me anymore, but I no longer care. Since I was a child, I've always been invisible at home, never a glimmer in my mother's eyes. When it came time to choose husbands, my sister was blessed with a match from a family of equal standing, while my fate was arranged to marry a man of humble origins, gambling on a better future. Win the bet, and everyone's happy. If we lose, it's just the sacrifice of a daughter. I knew it all along. People's hearts have always been biased, and they were not biased toward me, so I have no qualms about what I do today. The moment I boarded the ship, Feng Yamo kept waving at me. I looked back, thinking that in this capital city, perhaps he would be the only one left to welcome me in the end. Seeing that I remained silent, Ado tried to comfort me. Miss, don't be sad. Once we reach Jiangnan, I'll have my mother cook you something delicious. I curled my lips slightly and said, okay, no more sorrow. The first half of my life was already a muddy mess, but at least there's still the future. Since I've decided to live well, I won't allow myself to be negative anymore. In the days to come, I will not only have a long and lasting life but also enjoy peace and freedom year after year. Story 2. In the second year of dating Zhou Yubai, the crown prince of Hong Kong's elite circle, I was still kept in the shadows at the Grand Hong Kong banquet. I was the female star performing on stage. Meanwhile, he was the guest of honor being showered with attention in the VIP section. His mother would casually refer to me with just one remark, she's just a songstress. Yubai knows his limits. When he got engaged to his childhood sweetheart from a prominent family, those close to him asked what would become of me. Zhou Yubai gave a careless laugh. One in Hong Kong, one on the mainland. It's not like I can't afford to keep them both. Later, at the awards ceremony, I announced my temporary retirement from the entertainment industry after receiving the Best Actress trophy. The host was utterly astonished and asked for my reasons. I smiled and gently touched my slightly rounded belly. I'm in the early stages of pregnancy, and my husband isn't comfortable with me continuing to work. Down in the audience, Zhou Yubai, usually so composed and dignified, rose to his feet in a rare display of emotion, his eyes instantly reddening. Zhou Yubai was seated in the audience, in the center spot of the first row VIP section. Meanwhile, I stood on the stage, wearing heavy makeup and a thin dress, swaying her hips with a sultry gaze. She performed a classic movie theme song from 20 years ago. As the performance ended, applause filled the room. Zhou Yubai gave a perfunctory clap before rising from his seat to leave. The moment he departed, a dozen assistants and bodyguards swarmed after him in his wake. The venue instantly emptied out by nearly half. On my way back to the lounge, I got a message from him, waiting for you in the car. I stared at those 4 words, my smile strained and unreadable. It's been 2 years since Zhou Yubai and I started dating, yet our relationship still remains in the shadows. His mother mentioned me during her usual tea gatherings. Her tone was consistently gentle yet detached. Just some songstress. Yubai knows where to draw the line, and indeed, he knew exactly where to draw the line. Only his closest friends knew I was his girlfriend, but in a setting like that, we were worlds apart. He didn't even glance my way too. I took 2 days off from filming specifically for Zhou Yubai's birthday. He's been staying at a hotel on the Sheko Peninsula these past few days. When I arrived with gifts, the penthouse suite was already buzzing with activity. Yubai, is it true that you're getting engaged to the second daughter of the Song family? Even the crown prince can't escape the fate of an arranged marriage. But Yubai, what about Lin Jingwei? You seem quite taken with her. If you get engaged, do you plan to keep seeing her or break it off? Zhou Yubai let out a soft chuckle. That's not a problem at all. So you've already made up your mind. Zhou Yubai lit a cigarette, his smile lazy and nonchalant. One in Hong Kong, one on the mainland. It's not like I can't afford to keep them both. 3. I stood outside the door on what should have been a sweltering summer night, yet it felt as if someone had doused me with a bucket of ice water. My whole body was trembling, shaking violently. I pushed the door open. The voices gradually quieted down. Zhou Yubai's fingers holding the cigarette paused slightly. I threw the gift box on the floor and turned to leave. Zhou Yubai quickly followed me out. Jingwei, not wanting to talk to him any further, I briskly walked toward the elevator, but just as the elevator doors opened, Zhou Yubai grabbed my arm, for I lowered my head and forcefully shook off his hand. Zhou Yubai grasped it again, his eyes still holding that unshakable calm. Jingwei, be reasonable, don't make a scene, let's break up. Say that again. I said we're done. Zhou Yubai. I finally lifted my head and looked at him. To be honest, this thought had crossed my mind ever since I first heard his mother speak of me that way, but hearing him say it with my own ears, I knew it was completely over between Zhou Yubai and me. Darling, you know I've never had any real interest in the Song family's second daughter. His tone remained gentle, yet carried a coaxing persuasion with every word. Haven't you always wanted to work with director Zhang? Let me secure you the lead role in his next project. Zhou Yubai had never been willing to pull strings for me before because that would make people gossip about my relationship with him, and now, you want me to be your mistress in exchange for the leading role? I couldn't help but laugh. Pushing him away with my hand, Zhou Yubai, I genuinely wish you a happy engagement. Also, from now on, let's not see each other anymore. Lin Jingwei, are you sure you want to cross me? I stepped into the elevator without looking back. 5. After the breakup, all my business ventures in Harbor City came to a standstill. Meanwhile, Zhou Yubai made a grand show of promoting a fresh new starlet, Zhong Jiai. All the resources I lost ended up in her pocket. The opportunity to work with director Zhang that I had always dreamed of became something she obtained with effortless ease. At the banquet, I watched Zhou Yubai appear with his arm around a triumphant Zhong Jiai. The moment our eyes met, I realized my heart had grown completely still. Setting down my glass, I turned to leave, but Zhou Yubai stopped me. Do you want to come back now? Miss Zhong is young and beautiful. You have good taste. Zhou Yubai frowned slightly. Darling, don't push my buttons again and again. I looked at him calmly. I'm planning to go back to the mainland. Let's just start over from scratch. At least we won't starve to death. Zhou Yubai let out a bitter laugh. Did you really think going back to the mainland would give you a clean slate? Do you honestly believe anyone in the entertainment industry would dare work with you without my approval? My contract with the agency hasn't expired yet. I could return to the mainland. Sure, for a termination fee of 30 million. 6. So I had no choice but to stay in Hong Kong. At another banquet, my agent took me to propose a toast. Zhong Jiai stood beside director Zhang, radiating confidence, with a group of bodyguards and assistants behind her. When she saw me, she whispered something to the director, and his gaze toward me instantly shifted. Moments later, someone came over carrying a bottle of liquor. Miss Lin, finish this bottle, and the female supporting role in director Zhang's production is yours. I stared at the liquor bottle, then shifted my gaze to director Zhang. Sometimes, the only way to shatter prejudice is through action. By proving them wrong with results, I reached out and took the bottle. Just as I was finishing my third drink, the banquet hall suddenly fell silent. I set down my glass and looked toward the center of the crowd. A tall, handsome man in a black business suit strode into the banquet hall, surrounded by a group of people who seemed to treat him like the center of their universe. To my greater surprise, Zhou Yubai was following closely behind him. Matching his every step, his face wore an expression of deference and caution I had never seen before. Zhong Jiai had appeared behind me without my noticing. 7. Do you know who this is? I turned to find Zhong Jiai smiling mysteriously. Yubai's maternal uncle, the heir to Xing'an International, who controls half of Asia's financial sector. This man is the most unattainable prize in all of Hong Kong. Lin Jingwei. If you manage to win him over, you could rule the entertainment industry. Zhong Jiai's voice was laced with temptation. I knew she had ill intentions, but through my drunken haze, I still found my gaze drifting toward Guan Yanting at the center of the crowd. The man's handsome face was stern and unreadable, yet his presence was terrifyingly formidable. Perhaps because I had been staring at him for too long, his gaze suddenly shifted to my face. The alcohol had dulled my reflexes, leaving me locked in eye contact with him for a full 2 seconds. I quickly averted my gaze. As the dizziness grew more intense, I got up and went to the restroom. The alcohol hit me, and I ended up vomiting miserably. After cleaning up and stepping out, I stumbled upon an unexpected scene. The renowned Triple Crown actress Zhou Rong had red-rimmed eyes. She stood frozen mid-motion, clutching a business card with visible awkwardness. Guan Yanting merely stared back with glacial indifference, his eyes devoid of warmth. He made no move whatsoever to accept the card. In the end, Zhou Rong walked away, wiping tears from her eyes. Guan Yanting noticed me at that moment too. It was just a fleeting glance in my direction. Almost without thinking, I opened my purse, pulled out my business card, and offered it to him. Mr. Guan, I'm Lin Jingwei from Starlight Entertainment. Guan Yanting's gaze drifted down from my face and settled on the card. Then, he raised a brow slightly, his lips curling with amused interest. Following his line of sight, I finally realized, belatedly, that what I'd handed over wasn't a business card at all, but the complimentary room key from tonight's event organizers. I awkwardly tried to pull my hand back, but Guan Yanting reached out and took the card. His slender fingers clasped the room key as his gaze returned to my face, the lingering traces of a smile still playing on his lips. Miss Lin, see you soon. I could only watch helplessly as Guan Yanting pocketed the room key and turned to leave. I rushed after him in stunned silence, wanting to explain myself. Mr. Guan, but his secretary, who was standing behind him, stopped me with impeccable politeness and said gently, Miss Lin, please come with me. I felt it was necessary to clarify what had really happened. 9. So I obediently followed his secretary into the elevator. The penthouse suite at the top of the Intercontinental Hotel was reserved exclusively for Guan Yanting. As the haze of alcohol began to lift, the door swung open from the outside. Guan Yanting strode in, followed by his assistants, carrying suitcases and laptops. Meanwhile, my agent trailed meekly at the back of the group, pushing my luggage like a timid quail. Feng Jia, I exclaimed, springing to my feet in surprise. Wei, all your luggage is here. I'll head off first. Just give me a call if you need anything. Feng Jia set down the suitcase, shot me a few meaningful glances, and then made a quick getaway. The assistants tidied everything up and left with practiced efficiency. Only Mr. Guan Yanting and I remained in the room. I was so embarrassed I wished the ground would swallow me whole. Mr. Guan, what happened earlier was a misunderstanding. The scent of alcohol clung to him as he loosened his tie and settled onto the sofa. A misunderstanding. He tossed his tie aside and looked up at me. So, Miss Lin, care to explain why you handed me a room key? My face flushed crimson as I hurriedly explained, I meant to give you my business card. I must have grabbed the wrong one by mistake. Guan Yanting gave a faint smile. And what would giving me your business card mean? I was hoping to get to know you, Mr. Guan. If you ever invest in films or TV series, perhaps you could consider me. My voice trailed off as I slumped my shoulders in defeat. Countless people are vying for his favor. Why would he make an exception for me? I'm sorry for being presumptuous. I sniffled and bowed deeply. Mr. Guan, my apologies for disturbing you. I'll take my leave now. Ms. Lin. Just as I turned to leave, Guan Yanting called out, did I say no, Mr. Guan? I was taken aback. So, you'd actually consider me? Guan Yanting gave a slight nod. I bit my lip and ventured to ask, is it possible to be considered without resorting to under-the-table deals? Guan Yanting's expression relaxed, a lazy smile spreading across his face. No under-the-table deals are needed, but I have another condition. What are the conditions? I instantly became wary. I need a wife. Guan Yanting's gaze fixed intently on me, his voice deep and unexpectedly captivating. Would you be interested, Miss Lin? I was completely stunned. 10. Zhongjiai said Guan Yanting is the heir to Xing'an International, the most unattainable elite bachelor in Hong Kong, with countless socialites vying for his attention. How could a man like him possibly lack for a wife? I don't believe in getting something for nothing. What's more, he's Zhou Yubai's uncle. At that thought, alarm bells started ringing in my head. Mr. Guan, I used to be Zhou Yubai's girlfriend. I'm sure you've heard about that. Guan Yanting shifted his position, stretching his long arm over the sofa's armrest, and replied calmly, I know, you know, and yet you're making such a proposition to me. I grew increasingly baffled that Zhou Yubai's mother held me in such low regard, especially since Guan Yanting was her brother, yet I couldn't for the life of me understand why he would do this. Does it really matter? Doesn't that matter? I was taken aback. You're Zhou Yubai's uncle, and you're siblings with his mother, Mrs. Zhou has always disliked me, Miss Lin. Mrs. Zhou is merely an adopted daughter of the Guan family, not my biological sister. Besides, what does her opinion of you have to do with you becoming my wife? I'm just concerned about causing you embarrassment. After all, having your nephew's former girlfriend become your wife. Who knows what people might say behind our backs, Miss Lin. I don't believe anyone in Hong Kong would dare comment on my private affairs. Guan Yanting spoke, then shook his head with a hint of helplessness. But the way you kept making excuses to turn me down tonight has left me feeling rather embarrassed. Mr. Guan, that's not what I meant. So you're saying yes? Could I have some more time to think about it? Guan Yanting glanced at his watch and stood up. Miss Lin, you're welcome to stay here tonight and think it over. Let me know your decision first thing in the morning. There are 4 rooms here, you may choose whichever one you prefer. Then where will you be staying tonight? I'll be staying here as well. Seeing my eyes widen abruptly, Guan Yanting let out a soft chuckle. Don't worry, Miss Lin, I'll maintain proper gentlemanly conduct until you agree to be my wife. I had thought I'd struggle to fall asleep all night, but to my surprise, after washing up and lying down, I fell asleep as soon as I closed my eyes. 11. Perhaps it was the alcohol, but I slept deeply through the night without a single dream when I opened my eyes. In the morning, my mind gradually cleared. My conversation with Guan Yanting last night remained vivid in my memory. Lying in bed, I was contemplating how to respond. My phone suddenly vibrated. I picked it up and saw that it was Zhou Yubai calling. After a moment's hesitation, I answered the call. Where are you? Is there something you need, Mr. Zhou? Jia Yi told me you stopped my uncle in the hallway last night. Zhou Yubai let out a mocking laugh over the phone. Jingwei, desperation is no excuse for poor judgment. If you can't even get through the Zhou family's front door, what makes you think the Guan family will welcome you? I gripped my phone tighter and tighter, until my fingertips turned pale and bloodless. That casual, dismissive humiliation, that taken for granted condescension, it was like a sharp knife plunging straight into my heart. All the blood in my body seemed to be draining out through that wound. I slowly sat up, feeling as if the world had turned upside down. Alright, sweetheart, I know you've been through a lot these past few days. Promoting Zhong Jiai was just a momentary impulse. You know you're the one who truly matters to me. Arranged marriages among wealthy families are common, but I promise you, once she gives birth to the child, I'll never touch her again. You'll be the only one for me in this lifetime. Zhou Yubai. My voice came out hoarse in that dazed moment. I couldn't even remember how long it had been since I last called him by his full name. Let's end it here. I don't want to tarnish the beautiful beginning of what we had. And please don't make me regret ever loving a man who could be so wretched and despicable. A long silence hung on the other end of the line. Jingwei, I've never humbled myself like this for any woman before. Why can't you understand I have no choice in this? This is your last chance, Jingwei. My decision is final. Zhou Yubai. Think carefully, Jingwei. If you ever regret this and want to turn back, there will be no second chances. I've made up my mind. Zhou Yubai said nothing more and hung up. By the time I finished washing up and changed into clean clothes, it was almost 9 o'clock. Alright, Guan Yanting wasn't in the living room. The study door was slightly ajar, with faint voices drifting out. 12. I didn't want to disturb him, so I headed to the dining room for breakfast. Just as I finished breakfast, Guan Yanting wrapped up his work. He was wearing a smoke gray shirt and black trousers, looking quite relaxed with his tie off and the top 2 buttons of his shirt undone while in the room. Good morning, Mr. Guan, I greeted as I stood up. Good morning, Miss Lin. Guan Yanting gestured toward the sofa. Have a seat. I sat down across from him, still feeling a bit reserved. Relax. Guan Yanting looked up at me. No matter what happens, I won't make things difficult for you. There's no need to be nervous. Mr. Guan, I have a few questions. Go ahead. If I agree to marry you, could we keep the wedding announcement private for now? Guan Yanting raised a brow slightly. Your reason? Because I really enjoy acting and singing, even after marriage. I'd like to keep working. Guan Yanting nodded. I see, you don't want people giving you special treatment just because you're Mrs. Guan, is that it? Yes, it might sound a bit silly, but I still want to prove myself on my own terms. That's not a laughing matter, Miss Lin. The fact that you think this way only confirms my initial judgment was correct. So you agree, Mr. Guan, I'm genuinely surprised. Of course, in Hong Kong, many old money families strongly disapprove of their female members appearing in public, especially in the entertainment industry. I initially thought Guan Yanting wouldn't agree. Any more questions? There's one more thing. I bit my lip and mustered the courage to ask. You mentioned needing a wife. And I won't pry into your reasons, but I understand this must be a temporary arrangement. What we have could be called a contractual marriage. So Mr. Guan, how long do you intend for this contract to last? I only noticed the slight furrow in Guan Yanting's brow after I'd finished speaking. Mr. Guan, I apologize for my abruptness. Guan Yanting raised his slender fingers to his temple, shaking his head with the same resigned sigh he'd given last night. Miss Lin, this isn't some temporary arrangement or contractual marriage. Guan Yanting's expression was one of solemn earnestness. Marriage has no expiration date. If you insist on knowing, there's only one answer. It lasts until the day I draw my final breath. Throughout the entire marriage registration process, I felt as though I were intoxicated. What is it? My mind was in a daze, completely blank. 13, so much so that when taking photos, no matter how I smiled, it looked stiff and a bit silly. But Guan Yanting was outrageously handsome. The entertainment industry is never short of beautiful people. I've seen so many handsome men over the years that I've honestly become immune to them, but looking at Guan Yanting's face on the ID card still gave me a flutter of youthful infatuation. Stop staring, Guan Yanting said as he reached over, took both IDs, and put them away. He naturally took my hand and said, the real person is right here, you can look at me every day from now on. The moment he took my hand, my cheeks flushed and my heart raced. I tried to pull away slightly, but Guan Yanting only held on tighter. Let's go home first. I immediately grew nervous. Are we going to meet your parents? They're still on vacation abroad. We'll see them when they get back. A wave of relief washed over me instantly. Plan your schedule for the near future. We're going back to the mainland together. What for? To visit your parents. Guan Yanting drew me into his embrace and, with gentlemanly restraint, pressed a light kiss to my forehead. After all, I married their beloved daughter. Without asking for permission first, I ought to go and apologize properly. Mr. Guan, I couldn't help but be moved. No matter what reason Guan Yanting had for marrying me, whatever his intentions may be, but at the very least, nothing about his behavior made me feel uncomfortable. He respected my wishes from start to finish. I've been dating Zhou Yubai for nearly 2 years, and my parents have been wanting to meet him all this time, but Zhou Yubai turned it down every single time. Last year when my parents visited Hong Kong, he didn't even show his face the entire trip. Though his assistants and secretaries had meticulously arranged every detail of their itinerary, I could still sense my parents' disappointment and hurt. But at that moment, they were forcing smiles the whole time, afraid I might feel upset. Tears suddenly started falling. Guan Yanting didn't say a word, just gently pulled me into his embrace. He had a wonderful scent, the aroma of tobacco blended with the fragrance of sandalwood, incredibly soothing. In that moment, it struck me that agreeing to marry Guan Yanting wasn't some reckless impulse but the wisest decision I've made in years. My luggage and all personal belongings had already been moved by workers to Guan Yanting's mansion. Feel free to decorate however you like, or add anything you want. 14. Guan Yanting led me upstairs, where the master bedroom occupied the entire 3rd floor. It included a private sitting room, study, home theater, an expansive walk-in closet, and 2 bathrooms. All of my clothes had been sorted by the housekeeper, washed, ironed, and neatly hung up. The entire wall of the walk-in closet is taken up by handbag display cases, filled with the latest limited edition bags from top luxury brands. There are even around 20 Hermes Birkin bags, which start at over $1 million each. I wasn't sure what you'd like, so I picked out some that I thought would suit you and that you'd enjoy. If none of them appeal to you, I'll go shopping with you to find something else. I truly adore them all, Mr. Guan. But you really shouldn't have bought so many. I was momentarily dazed, realizing that even when Zhou Yubai was passionately pursuing me back then, he never spent money with such reckless extravagance. Women are naturally drawn to fine jewelry, elegant dresses, and designer handbags. No one could remain completely indifferent when faced with such luxuries. I'm no exception to the rule either. Guan Yanting gently stroked my hair and said, go put on something nice. We're going out for dinner tonight. I think I'll remember this night forever. The Victoria Harbour cruise was illuminated by brilliant fireworks that lit up the sky all night long. In the vast dining room, only Guan Yanting and I remained. The exquisite food and fine wine were utterly intoxicating, yet the sea breeze that swept across the waters that night stirred ripples deep within my heart. That was what you might call our wedding night, but Guan Yanting didn't lay a finger on me. The master suite on the third floor had 2 bedrooms, so we each took one. He gave me a gentle goodnight kiss before turning to leave. The door clicked shut softly behind him. I lay in bed, adrift in the shifting, murky play of light and shadow, yet my mind was preoccupied with how a man like Guan Yanting could love someone so skillfully. Who on earth taught him all this? Could it be that he, like in those romance novels, has an unforgettable white moonlight or red rose? But what does any of this have to do with me? How long have I even known him? Just a few days. What weight could I possibly carry in his heart? Guan Yanting enlisted the top lawyers from Shingen International's legal department to help me terminate my contract with Star Glow, but I didn't take Guan Yanting's advice to join his entertainment company 15. Instead, I chose to team up with Sister Fong and start my own independent studio. For one thing, I didn't want people to think I was getting special treatment just because of my connection to Guan Yanting. For another, if Guan Yanting and I were to part ways someday, at least my career would remain unaffected. With Sister Fong handling the setup of my studio, I immediately threw myself into auditioning non-stop. Meanwhile, Zhong Jiai had already landed the female lead role in director Zhang's film through Zhou Yubai and had started script readings with the cast. There was still a challenging villainous role in the new film, a standout part that was tough to pull off, and director Zhang hadn't yet found the right actress for it, so I went ahead and signed up for the audition. Director Zhang didn't have a favorable impression of me from the start. The moment I stepped into the room, he furrowed his brow, yet he still gave me a chance. Midway through my performance, Director Zhang, who had been lounging casually in his chair, slowly straightened up. His expression grew serious and attentive. When the curtain fell, I landed the role of the villainess during our first table read. Zhong Jiai still looked down her nose at me. She was playing the female lead's rival, while my character barely ranked as 4th female. But then director Zhang threw everyone a curveball by having the screenwriter overhaul the script. The 2nd female lead's scenes were cut, while the 4th female lead got dozens of additional scenes. Zhong Jiai's face immediately darkened. The next day, Zhou Yubai rushed to the film set. I was on a wire rig at the time, just hoisted up to the height of a dozen stories. Zhou Yubai immediately called for a halt. Zhong Jiai was crying pitifully. Director Zhang was in a foul mood and refused to back down, and the situation quickly reached a stalemate. And there I was, left hanging midair, seemingly forgotten by everyone. Director Zhang, I have just one demand today: either Zhong Jiai leaves this production, or Lin Jingwei does. Lin Jingwei passed the audition. She's excellent and perfect for this role. There's no way I'm replacing her. 16. If director Zhang refuses to recast, then we'll shut down production. We won't resume filming until Lin Jingwei is replaced. The financial loss from a single day of production shutdown is staggering. Zhou Yubai's move was clearly meant to force director Zhang's hand. Zhou Yubai turned and walked a few steps, then suddenly halted. He turned back to look at me suspended midair and said, Director Zhang, how about this? Let's both meet halfway. If Lin Jingwei can endure hanging on wires for a full day, we'll consider the matter settled. I won't object to however you choose to film or modify the script afterward. How does that sound? This is unacceptable. Hanging there for a whole day, even the professional stunt performers in our crew couldn't endure that. Then we have nothing more to discuss. Zhou Yubai let out an icy laugh. Director Zhang, why don't you ask Lin Jingwei? Perhaps she'd be willing. Director Zhang's voice came through my earpiece, and I listened to every single word. My heart remained completely unruffled. Zhou Yubai knows I have a slight fear of heights during regular filming. I can grit my teeth and endure it when the scenes are brief, but for an entire day, Zhou Yubai must be well aware that I simply couldn't hold out. It's just that this situation started because of me, but I genuinely love this role and really want to work with director Zhang. Jingwei, it's alright, director. The show must go on. That was the first lesson our professor taught us at film school. I agree, with hundreds of crew members working on this production. We can't let everything grind to a halt just because of me. Jingwei, I must admit I misjudged you before. You're not just a talented actress, but a wonderful person too. By the 3rd hour, I was already feeling seriously unwell. Since joining the film crew, I've been strictly monitoring my weight. 17. Having only a slice of whole wheat bread and half a glass of milk for breakfast, suspended midair, I was already feeling dizzy and lightheaded, with cold sweat pouring down incessantly. My costume had been drenched through countless times I asked to use the restroom, but Zhou Yubai flatly refused. Lin Jingwei, if you just come back to me, I'll let bygones be bygones. I could only manage a week. Feeble shake of my head. Zhou Yubai let out a bitter laugh. Fine, have it your way, Lin Jingwei, that goddamn temper of yours will be the death of you one day. He stood up and walked into the lounge. Zhong Jiai followed him out with a smug look on her face. A sharp, piercing ringing started buzzing in my ears, and my head throbbed with splitting pain. At some point, blinding white light started flashing before my eyes, and I completely lost consciousness. When I came to, I found myself lying in a hospital bed. I was dressed in clean, soft pajamas, with an 4 needle inserted in the back of my hand. The air carried not just the scent of disinfectant, but also a familiar, crisp note of sandalwood. My eyes instinctively scanned the room, and sure enough, I spotted Guan Yanting asleep on the sofa outside the window. The sky had darkened, a whole day had slipped by unnoticed. As I tried to sit up, the slight rustling was enough to stir Guan Yanting awake. He rose immediately and closed the distance to my bedside in just a few strides. Warm fingers touched my forehead as Guan Yanting's voice came out slightly hoarse, still thick with sleep. You're awake. How are you feeling? Are you thirsty? Would you like something to eat? I'd like some water. Just a moment, I'll get it for you. Guan Yanting quickly brought over a cup of warm honey water. He helped me drink most of it, then supported me as I lay back down on the bed. Mr. Guan, about the film crew, there's no telling what the situation is now, especially with someone like Zhou Yubai's temperament. They won't let this go easily. Don't worry, Zhou Yubai has no energy to deal with these matters right now. Guan Yanting tucked the blanket around me. Lin Jingwei, even if our marriage isn't public, you're still my wife. He looked at me, a faint weariness on his face. How could I possibly stand by and do nothing when you're being bullied? I lowered my gaze slowly. I apologize for causing you trouble. For a man like Guan Yanting, even a pet dog he keeps shouldn't be treated with disrespect, let alone the fact that I'm now his lawful wife. Get some proper rest first. There's no rush to return to the film set. He glanced at his watch. I have an urgent matter that requires me to go abroad for the next few days. The nanny will have to look after you. Go ahead with your work. Don't worry about me. I'll be fine after a couple days of rest. Alright. Guan Yanting tucked in the corner of my blanket, then leaned down and kissed me. I'll be back in a couple of days. Don't try to handle everything on your own. You can reach out to me anytime. Guan Yanting didn't say anything more. A moment later, his secretary came in. After tidying up the computer and scattered documents on the desk, the two of them finally left. I understand. He looked quite exhausted earlier. He must have learned about my situation while handling official business and rushed to the hospital to take care of me. I stood there lost in thought, a pang of regret and sorrow tugging at my heart. My original intention was to draw a clear line between us and avoid troubling him as much as possible, yet in the end, I still ended up causing him inconvenience. And now, at this late hour, he has to rush off to catch a red-eye flight abroad. A pang of self-reproach washed over me. Still, he seemed to have genuinely fulfilled his duties and obligations as a husband, and what had I ever done for him? The day Guan Yanting returned from his business trip happened to be when I wrapped up filming. Today's shoot was a pivotal scene where I played a drunken seductress who assassinated the drama's main antagonist. 18. When the call came, I rushed out without even removing my makeup, just throwing on a coat. My face was still heavily made up, and I reeked of alcohol. The moment the car door opened, Guan Yanting frowned slightly and asked, "How much have you had to drink?" I had a bit more to drink for the shoot. My steps were still unsteady as I got into the car. Guan Yanting reached out and steadied me. "Let's get you home first." Then he told the driver, "Drive slowly." Even so, the slight jostling was unavoidable and made me feel a bit queasy. Guan Yanting pulled me into his arms, and my makeup ended up smudging his shirt. "Mr. Guan, I think I've stained your clothes." As dusk fell, the light inside the carriage grew hazy and indistinct. Guan Yanting brushed aside the curly strands of hair at my temple with his fingers. "What do you call me, Mr. Guan?" Lin Jingwei, think carefully. What should you really call me? Perhaps it was the alcohol, or perhaps it was the irresistible allure in his voice. I leaned into his embrace, closed my eyes, and whispered in the softest voice, "Honey." Guan Yanting lowered his head and kissed me. Unlike before, when it was just a fleeting brush against my forehead, instead, he gradually deepened the kiss, his tongue exploring until I melted helplessly into his arms. That night, Guan Yanting didn't go to the other room. When I stepped out of the shower, I felt a bit nervous and pulled up the silky quilt, wrapping myself completely in it. 19. Yet in that intimate darkness, I widened my eyes and clenched my hands. I didn't know what I was nervous about. nor what I was anticipating or afraid of. It wasn't until Guan Yanting stepped out of the bathroom and stood by the window. "Aren't you afraid you'll suffocate under there?" He pulled back the blanket, and I nervously kept my eyes shut, my eyelashes fluttering. I didn't dare to look at him at all. Jingwei, Guan Yanting, however, made no further move. "If you're not ready yet, we can wait, Guan Yanting." I opened my eyes and looked at him. "Have you ever been in love before?" "Yes," Guan Yanting replied without hesitation. "Just as I thought." I wasn't wrong. Just like how I too have a past I'd rather not look back on. A man like him, with his background, experiences, and age, how could his emotional world be a blank slate? But could someone like him also yearn for something beyond his reach? But all that is in the past now. "Don't you like her anymore?" Guan Yanting didn't answer. Instead, he leaned down and kissed me again. "Are you that eager for me to like someone else?" 20. I shook my head in a fluster. "No, it's just I was thinking that if you had someone you liked, it'd be better if I didn't get too involved in your life, but you're already my wife." His lips brushed against my earlobe. "Unless you don't want to fulfill your duties and responsibilities as my wife." "Lin Jingwei, close your eyes." "Oh, I didn't." I obediently shut my eyes, and Guan Yanting's hand gently settled on my waist. Let me know if you feel uncomfortable anywhere." I always thought that with Guan Yanting's serious demeanor and career-focused nature, he probably wouldn't be too keen on intimate matters, but I never expected that this man, who always appeared so disciplined and proper in public. 21. I never imagined I'd have such a moment of reckless abandon. "Guan Yanting, we still have 2 scenes to shoot tomorrow." I was completely exhausted, yet he showed no signs of stopping. "Are you only thinking about the shoot? What about me?" Guan Yanting let out a displeased hum. Yet the force of his thrusts suddenly intensified. I couldn't help but moan softly. "Guan Yanting, what did you call me?" "Guan." The name Guan Yanting shattered on my lips before I could even utter it, his impact scattering the sound. In the end, I could only manage a trembling whisper. "Husband." "Good girl, say it again." "Husband." "Lin Jingwei." Guan Yanting lowered his head and kissed me deeply. "You must always call me that from now on. Understand?" "Understood, my love." My eyes glistened with unshed tears, their trails dampening the corners, shattered by the intensity of the moment, yet tenderly kissed away by him with Zhou Yubai gone. The entire film shoot went incredibly smoothly. Zhong Jiai's acting was simply atrocious, to the point where her supposed role as the female lead number 2 ended up having nearly 2/3 of her scenes cut by director Zhang. Meanwhile, my supporting role ended up with almost as much screen time as the female lead. 22. After we wrapped up filming, Guan Yanting and I made a trip back to the mainland together. My parents had been quite worried ever since they found out I got married in Hong Kong, but all their concerns and unease simply melted away the moment they met Guan Yanting. There's no doubt about it, a steady, dependable man like him really wins over the older generation, my mom especially. They say a mother-in-law grows fonder of her son-in-law the more she sees him. My mom was so over the top. She only had eyes for Guan Yanting and nearly forgot about me, her only daughter. Guan Yanting was incredibly thorough with the formalities, providing all the betrothal and wedding gifts and gold jewelry, practically filling our entire living room. Even I was surprised by how thoroughly prepared he was. A dowry of 100 million was deposited into an account under my name. He even brought 1,010,000 in cash with him, yet none of this compared to the moment my parents saw our marriage certificate with their own eyes. I knew very well this had been a lingering concern for both of them. After all, when Zhou Yubai and I were dating, my status as his girlfriend was never clearly defined. We stayed at my parents' place for 3 days, and Guan Yanting devoted himself wholeheartedly to keeping my parents company during that time. Besides playing chess and fishing with my father, he even accompanied my mother to the market every day and took the dog for walks along the way. My mom is so thrilled with her new son-in-law. She wants to shout it from the rooftops. 23. When someone asks her the price of potatoes, she beams and says, "How did you know this is my son-in-law? Just look at him, isn't he dashing?" When people ask how old our dog is during walks, she gives completely unrelated answers. "My son-in-law is from Hong Kong and not even 30 yet. Isn't he more handsome than any movie star?" I was laughing so hard I could barely stand, yet Guan Yanting somehow managed to maintain perfect composure. He stood obediently beside my mother, letting all the aunties scrutinize him from head to toe, while offering their unsolicited comments. Only then did my mother finally take her precious son-in-law home, completely satisfied. My mom was practically in floods of tears when we returned to Hong Kong. Guan Yanting has a real knack for charming elders. He had my mom smiling through her tears in no time when he invited them to spend the new year in Hong Kong. Her sadness about parting instantly vanished. After getting back to Hong Kong, I went straight into filming with the crew. Director Zhang's praise for me gradually built up a strong reputation. Meanwhile, Zhou Yubai was swamped with the company's overseas affairs. Not even having a chance to return to Hong Kong, I started getting more and more film offers. By the time Director Zhang's film was released, I had already shot a movie and a TV series, and even released 2 new singles. The film received excellent feedback after its release, particularly for the morally ambiguous supporting female character I portrayed. It garnered countless praises, earning near unanimous acclaim from both critics and audiences alike. Director Zhang privately told me that I stood a strong chance of winning Best Actress for this role. He also invited me to star in his next film, insisting the leading female role was mine for the taking. But just then, I unexpectedly collapsed in the recording studio and was rushed to the nearest hospital. I was pregnant, just 6 weeks along. Due to long-term dieting, my pregnancy wasn't progressing well. The sudden collapse was caused by low blood sugar during the recording session. Yet, when I found out I was pregnant, my first thought was 24. What was Guan Yanting thinking? Does he even want this child? After all, there was once a woman he truly loved. We never really talked about having kids before we got married. I had this uneasy feeling I couldn't quite put into words, yet deep down, there was a glimmer of hope. The hospital room door swung open, and Guan Yanting walked in with a serious look on his face. My heart sank. Guan Yanting, Lin Jingwei. He walked to the bedside, sat down, and looked at me rather sternly. Didn't you realize your period is late? It's always been irregular before, so I didn't pay much attention to it. I whispered an apology. Guan Yanting, I'm sorry, have I caused you trouble again? According to my agent Fang Jia, she called Guan Yanting immediately after I fainted. At the time, Guan Yanting was in a meeting. He interrupted it as soon as he got the call and rushed to the hospital, even running 3 red lights along the way. He's never been one to lose his composure like that. No matter how big the issue at work gets, he handles it with perfect composure and efficiency. I've already talked to you twice about this extreme dieting for weight loss, but you just wouldn't listen. The camera adds 10 pounds. It's just one of those unavoidable things. I've already told Su Fang to put the work on hold for now. No, Guan Yanting, we had an agreement. I'm not leaving the industry. I want to keep working. But now, I'm not stopping you from working. After you've given birth and recovered, you can act or sing, whatever you want, but not now. Lin Jingwei, you must put your career on hold. Do you really want this child? Why would you ever think I wouldn't want our child? I lowered my head, the words lingering on the tip of my tongue yet impossible to voice. I'm afraid that one day, our story will turn into some cliché straight out of a novel. If the woman he truly loves ever comes back, he'd abandon me and our child without a second thought. Honestly, I'm not completely against this outcome. I just don't want an innocent child to get caught in the crossfire. Guan Yanting, I've been thinking, if we didn't have a child, you could end our marriage whenever you wanted, but with a child in the picture, it would be rather cruel to him. After all, there was a woman you once loved. What if she came back someday? She's already returned. Huh, I was completely stunned, my eyes widening unconsciously as I stared at him. So the person he loved had already come back, but I haven't heard a thing about it. Guan Yanting must truly care for her. That's why he's protecting her so well. We registered our marriage 8 months ago. Guan Yanting looked at me. Lin Jingwei, when it comes to marriage, I'm not as careless and casual as you think. I've been serious from the very beginning. I don't understand. Why me? Matters of the heart can never be fully explained. If you need a reason, let's just say it was love at first sight. Were you in love with me long ago, back when you just started dating Zhou Yubai? How could you possibly? How could anyone covet their own nephew's girlfriend? Isn't that just wrong? That's right. Guan Yanting gave a faint smile. I've asked myself the same question. Like I said before, matters of the heart are often beyond explanation, but I must make one thing clear. Before you and Zhou Yubai broke up, I never entertained any inappropriate thoughts. It wasn't until after you broke up with Zhou Yubai that I started entertaining the idea. As he said this, a deeper glint of amusement suddenly appeared in Guan Yanting's eyes. I just never expected that before I could even make a move, you'd come to me first. I thought back to the mix-up from that night. I was mortified with embarrassment back then, but now only one thought remains. It turns out so many things in life are predestined. At 3.5 months pregnant, I won my first Best Actress award for director Zhang's film. While walking up to accept the award, I made an unexpected discovery. Zhou Yubai was actually seated in the VIP section of the front row, just like that time when I was performing on stage 25, but back then, he didn't even glance my way, treating me like a complete stranger. Now, however, his gaze was fixed unabashedly on my face. My gown was a loose-fitting style, so my baby bump wasn't visible during the post-award interview. The host asked about my upcoming projects. I directly announced my temporary departure from the entertainment industry. The audience immediately erupted in murmurs, whispering among themselves. The host also looked surprised as they asked for the reason. I gently touched my slightly rounded belly beneath the gown, smiling with sweet happiness. I'm in my first trimester, and my husband isn't comfortable with me continuing to work. The moment those words were spoken, Zhou Yubai, sitting in the audience, abruptly stood up with red-rimmed eyes. Without so much as a glance in his direction, I bowed once more in gratitude before cradling the trophy and descending from the stage. Guan Yanting was still waiting for me. I handed the trophy to my assistant and, not waiting for her to help me with my coat, gathered my skirt and hurried toward Guan Yanting. Lin Jingwei, stay right where you are. His brow furrowed. Unable to conceal the tension on his face, he strode toward me faster than I could approach, opening his arms to pull me into a tight embrace. Have you forgotten what the doctor said? You shouldn't run like that. But I missed you so much. I stood on tiptoe and gently kissed him, then smoothed his slightly furrowed brow. Darling, don't frown. You look so stern and intimidating when you do. Guan Yanting's brow gradually relaxed. He lowered his head to meet my kiss. Are you tired? So tired. I want to go home. All right. Let's go home. He chuckled softly, cupped my face in his hands, and pressed another kiss to my forehead. Let's go. Zhou Yubai stood there in a daze, while the exquisitely dressed Madame Zhou stared wide-eyed in utter astonishment as Guan Yanting put his arm around me and turned. The look on Madame Zhou's face was simply beyond words. Yanting, you, how could you, with her, Mrs. Zhou's hands trembled uncontrollably. She's just a songstress, a woman of her standing. Yanting, how could you? 26. Though so much time had passed, and I'd long severed ties with Zhou Yubai, hearing Mrs. Zhou's words still made me flush with humiliation. Guan Yanting drew me into his embrace, gently patting my back. A songstress? Have you forgotten that my grandmother also studied music and performed on stage numerous times? His voice was soft, yet carried immense authority. Madame Zhou's face instantly turned deathly pale. Zhou Yubai seemed to snap out of his daze. Uncle, you and Jingwei. He gritted his teeth and spoke as if throwing caution to the wind. Jingwei used to be my girlfriend. Uncle, aren't you afraid of what people will say if this gets out? Since when was she your girlfriend? Zhou Yubai, in those 2 years, did anyone in all of Hong Kong know about your relationship with her? But everyone close to me knows. So what? You can't do this, Uncle. You can't use your seniority to take Jingwei away from me. If I recall correctly, 3 months ago at the Guan family banquet, the patriarch declared that your mother is no longer an adopted daughter of the Guan family, so, how could you possibly call me an elder? Uncle, young Master Zhou, from now on, you may address me as Mr. Guan. After saying this, Guan Yanting didn't look at the two people in front of him anymore. He put his arm around me and turned to leave. Zhou Yubai and Mrs. Zhou wanted to say more, but were stopped by Guan Yanting's bodyguards. He took my hand and led me to the car. Once inside the car, I couldn't hold back any longer. Why is Mrs. Zhou no longer considered an adopted daughter of the Guan family? The old man has long been dissatisfied with her. Over the years, she's used her status as an adopted daughter of the Guan family to do who knows how many shady things. It's just that grandma was very fond of her when she was alive, so the old man has been putting up with it all this time. Later, when the critical remarks she made about you reached the old man's ears, he flew into a rage on the spot. Was it because of grandma? Half of it was because of grandma, and the other half was because of you. The very first song you performed on stage when you debuted was the Fisherman's Song, my grandmother's favorite piece before she passed away. Guan Yanting said this while smiling and gently stroking my cheek. The old man said you sang beautifully, and your voice even resembled my grandmother's. He used to listen to you sing that song quite often back then, so that's how it all connected. No wonder Guan Yanting brought me to the Guan family back then. Because of me, the elders were all very warm and friendly towards me, especially the old gentleman, who looked at me with a beaming smile. Full of affection, I leaned against Guan Yanting's chest, his warm palm resting on my lower abdomen, gently caressing. The car moved smoothly, heading in the direction of our home in that hazy state between sleep and wakefulness, I asked Guan Yanting, "So what do you like about me?" "So many things. I can't even put them into words." His answer wasn't particularly romantic, yet it made my heart swell with sweetness. Affection defies explanation. If you asked me what I adore about Guan Yanting, I couldn't pinpoint it. Yet here I am, cherishing, relying, and trusting every moment. I long to see him, every moment. I yearned to be by his side. I fell asleep in his arms, just like me. In my drowsy state, I felt Guan Yanting's kiss land by my temple. Even in my sleep, the corners of my lips curled into a smile. The end.